Chapter 2739. Zhang Qingxiao bitterly smiled and shook her head. He doesn't know either. If it's like what you said, it should be because of the blood drop grotto heaven technique. This blood drop grotto heaven is so powerful. Xiao Hua was dumbfounded. Nonsense, this is Scarlet Maple Devil Lord's technique, how can it be bad? Zhang Qingxiao sneered. Ji Ping only cultivated a little bit. If he had a little bit of success, you and I would definitely die today. Xiao Hua squinted his eyes and looked at Zhang Qingxiao without saying anything. Zhang Qingxiao was scared by his stare and said coldly, "Why are you looking at me? Could it be, you want the cultivation method of this blood drop grotto heaven?" "That's right. Previously, you gave me the cultivation technique. But I can't cultivate it." Xiao Hua nodded and said, "And that Ji Ping is also in the Dawn Rain continent, how can he cultivate it? Now that you've swallowed a part of Ji Peng's body, you must know this secret." "You can't tell me." Zhang Qingxiao didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked at the black flame and black gas imprisoned by the spirit fire, thought for a moment, and said hesitantly, "This secret technique, it's not that I can't tell you. Because you can cultivate my Devil Realm's concealment technique, it's very likely that you can cultivate this blood drop grotto heaven. But, as long as you cultivate this devil technique, the consequences, I don't know. It's really possible that you'll become a devil like me. You're not even willing to be the vice sect master of Heavenly Devil Sect, are you willing to become a devil?" Xiao Hua hesitated, muttered for a moment, and said, "Let me see the secret technique first. Wait for me to think clearly, then I'll decide whether to cultivate it or not." "You have to think clearly. Although my life is important and you have to face Ji Ping together with me, there are thousands of paths. You don't have to cultivate this blood drop grotto heaven to kill Ji Ping." Zhang Qingxiao naturally knew what Xiao Hua was thinking and said sincerely, "I know what's important. Give me the secret technique." Xiao Hua stretched out his hand and said, Okay. Zhang Qingxiao clapped her hands and took out a few demonic slips from her storage pouch. She handed them to Xiao Hua and said, "These contain all of Ji Peng's demonic arts and memories. I knew you would want them when I fused with them earlier." "Hee, many thanks, second senior brother." Xiao Hua unceremoniously reached out and took it. He didn't even look at it before putting it into his space. Looking at Xiao Hua's appearance, the corner of Zhang Qingxiao's mouth slightly revealed a smile. She hesitated slightly before asking, "You, that Vajra Dharma body? Or the Phoenix Dharma body? Why didn't you use it? Which of these Dharmakayas is most effective against the devil body of the devil world?" "Phoenix Dharma body." Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows. "Second senior brother, you know a lot. More than you think." Zhang Qingxiao sneered, "If you temper your Vajra celestial body more, you may not be at a disadvantage even in this blood drop paradise." "Sigh, it's a long story." Xiao Hua sighed, "I lost that avatar." Lost it?" Zhang Qingxiao was extremely shocked. Even with her experience, she had never heard of such an unimaginable thing. But after listening to Xiao Hua's general explanation, she couldn't help but be flabbergasted. She repeatedly said, This is too much of a coincidence. I can't help it." Xiao Hua shrugged. At that time, the situation was extremely urgent. "If that crack had continued for half a moment, you wouldn't have been able to see me again." "Actually, I don't understand." Zhang Qingxiao blinked her eyes and said, "How did your Vajra celestial body turn into the Phoenix Dharma body?" "Oh, of course, if you don't want to say, I also don't want to know. However, if it's really related to the bloodline of the true bloodline, this avatar shouldn't be lost." "Ah. Really?" Xiao Hua knew that he wasn't as knowledgeable as Zhang Qingxiao, so he couldn't help but be happy. Then where should I go to look for it? Naturally, you have to look for it wherever you lost it. Zhang Qingshao said with a smile. The void? Xiaohua suddenly thought of the spatial crack between the sword mound and Mingxi, and said anxiously, I don't remember the location of the Gale snowfield very clearly. What if I enter the void from another place? Hee, you really don't know anything. Zhang Qingshao said with a smile, although the void is outside the Dawn Rain continent, but there's no direction in the void. Even if you left a divine sense mark on the Gale snowfield, it would be like carving a boat to find a sword. It's absolutely impossible to find your avatar there. Actually, to put it more clearly, the void is a Kuai-He Sea, and my Dawn Rain continent is a small island on the Kuai-He Sea. Your avatar is a grain of sand thrown into the sea. Zhang Qingshao shook her head and said, if you want to find your avatar, it's tantamount to finding a needle in a haystack. Didn't you say you want to look for it in the void? Xiaohua was unhappy. Yes, you can only look for it there, but I didn't say anything wrong. As for whether you can find it or not, that's another matter. Zhang Qingshao argued. That's equivalent to not saying anything. The glimmer of hope that had just risen in Xiaohua's heart was immediately extinguished. It depends on your divine sense and your fate. Zhang Qingshao shook her head and said, when you can reach the dividing spirit stage, maybe you can set foot in the void. Maybe you can meet your avatar there. Moreover, your avatar was born from your bloodline, so it should be able to sense you. Maybe it can take the initiative to find you. Oh, right, you. Speaking of this, Zhang Qingshao suddenly thought of something and said with narrowed eyes, you can use the dividing spirit stage to control several magic treasures and Buddha's relics. Do you have a demonic sense splitting technique similar to the demonic sense splitting technique in the devil realm? Did you send a wisp of your primordial spirit into that Phoenix avatar? When Yin Meng saw that he had the primordial spirit splitting technique, Zhang Qingshao had been trapped by Ji Peng's magic bamboo slip and didn't know the situation outside. However, he had absorbed Ji Peng's memory, so he naturally knew what Yin Meng knew. Therefore, Xiaohua didn't hide it and answered honestly. You have some luck. Zhang Qingshao sneered, if the Phoenix avatar is in your body, it will always be your avatar. Now that the Phoenix avatar is alone in the void, if you have the opportunity, with your primordial spirit as the master, this avatar may really become your external avatar. External avatar. What is that? Xiaohua was overjoyed when he heard the name and asked hurriedly. What else can it be? It's another Xiaohua. Zhang Qingshao said angrily, but her eyes were obviously envious. He's second senior brother, can you tell me the details? Xiaohua grinned. I won't tell you. Zhang Qingshao waved her hand, when you find it, you will know. Damn it, why don't I have such good luck? TSK, Xiaohua rubbed his hands and said shyly, I'm sorry, little brother's luck is just a little bit better. Xiaohua even stretched out his little finger and used the nail of his thumb to make a gesture. Looking at Xiaohua's appearance, Zhang Qingshao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, he was completely unguarded against this mysterious little junior brother now. He only wanted to maintain the few relatives he had on the Dawn Rain continent. Don't be so complacent. Zhang Qingshao said with a smile, you don't have the Phoenix avatar. Against the demon general's demon avatar, you are already at a disadvantage. Xiaohua shrugged and said helplessly, then I can't do anything. Do you remember that heavenly law embodiment technique? Zhang Qingshao thought for a moment and asked. I remember, Xiaohua nodded, that technique. And that technique is actually the cultivation technique of the demon avatar. Zhang Qingshao said hesitantly, however, it is not complete, and, if there is a technique like blood drop paradise, it should be enough. Xiaohua nodded. It should be. Zhang Qingshao declined to comment. If heavenly law embodiment technique is cultivated alone, it will naturally be effective. After all, this technique has already been improved. It's just that you already have the Phoenix avatar. No matter what. I'm afraid you can't cultivate another avatar, right? Everything is possible. Xiaohua was well aware of the origin of his great strength Vajra avatar. It had nothing to do with bloodline at all. If he cultivated heavenly law embodiment technique, there might really be some surprises. Sigh, do as you wish. Zhang Qingshao said somewhat helplessly. She was already somewhat tired of Xiaohua giving her surprises again and again. After thinking for a moment, Zhang Qingshao clapped her hands and took out many jade slips and handed them to Xiaohua, saying, "These are all the techniques that I can find. You, do as you see fit. Remember, I am not supporting you to create some technique. I have so many jade slips that I have no place to put them. I will leave one for you." "Ah, little brother, thanks." Xiaohua beamed with joy and reached out to receive them, sending them all into the space. "Give me the universal shifting medallion." Zhang Qingshao stretched out her hand. Xiaohua asked curiously, "What are you doing?" "Destroying it." Zhang Qingshao said coldly, "This universe shifting token contains the jade slips and materials to set up the teleportation array. However, because it was damaged during the teleportation, that bastard Yin Meng couldn't take it out. That's why the Changbai sect had to repair it. This item is the root of a disaster. It must be destroyed. You have a way." Xiaohua was stunned. "I tried just now." Zhang Qingshao knew that Xiaohua was unwilling and said coldly, "Don't be a miser. You picked up sesame seeds and threw away the watermelon. Without this item, the chances of Ji Ping coming here will be much smaller. With this item, that bastard can't come." Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "Don't worry about this item with me. Others definitely can't take it away. Of course, unless you have the confidence to destroy it." Unfortunately, Zhang Qingshao closed her eyes for a long time, and a helpless expression appeared on her face. She shook her head and said, "Forget it, you take it first. Since I can't destroy it, it's safer to leave it with you." Then, Zhang Qingshao looked around and pointed at the black gas in the spiritual fire, saying, "This black flame and other things. I think you left it for me." Chapter 2740. That's right. Xiaohua nodded. "This item must be beneficial to you. I didn't completely destroy it. I'll give it to you." Zhang Qingshao clapped her hands and took out a ring the size of a fist. Blood light flashed around her body and the ring emitted a strange fluctuation. The black flame within the spiritual fire started to tremble rapidly. "Release the black flame," Zhang Qingshao said. Xiaohua obeyed and kept the spiritual fire. The black gas and black flame were sucked into the ring. As the black flame disappeared, the mace was revealed and fell into Zhang Qingshao's hands. Then, Zhang Qingshao opened her mouth again, and a ray of blood light landed on the blood walls around her. The entire blood walls began to squirm, and then they were absorbed by the ring. At this moment, the sky was filled with stars and the entire Tianzhu Peak was covered in snow. It was a beautiful white land. The magic bamboo slip has the usage of the blood ring. Zhang Qingshao handed the ring to Xiaohua and extended her hand to pass the mace to Xiaohua. Xiaohua kept them all in his spatial ring. "Remember, don't cultivate rashly." Zhang Qingshao looked at Xiaohua's indifferent expression and couldn't help but remind him again. "I understand, second senior brother." Xiaohua nodded. He looked at the clear sky and said, I've already seen your heavenly demon sex message talisman. Then, the person I'm looking for has already gone to Sky Patrol City. We don't have to go to Meng Kingdom now. We can just go to Sky Patrol City directly. Zhang Qingxiao nodded. She looked at Xiao Hua's arms and asked worriedly, Lu is fine in your spiritual storage bag. You put him with that spiritual beast. Will he be fine? No harm. Xiao Hua smiled. That spiritual beast is very obedient. Nothing will happen to him. Also, I've already seen that there are no changes to Lu. All right. Zhang Qingxiao's face showed disappointment and said, half of what happened to Lu is my fault. I originally said that I would help you find a way to save Lu But now that the Heavenly Demon Sect's first deputy sect leader, Yin Meng, is dead, he still has many direct disciples. Who knows, Ji Peng might have set them up. I have no choice but to go back and purge them. Furthermore, Laozi had already devoured Ji Peng's doppelganger. He still needed to properly digest it and completely refine it. He could not allow it to turn around and control Laozi. Therefore, I'm afraid I can't go to Sky Patrol City with you. And I know. Xiao Hua nodded. Even if you go, it's useless. I might as well go myself. Alright, I'll leave Lure's matter to you. Zhang Qingxiao clapped her hands and took out a token. She handed it to Xiao Hua and said, This is my Heavenly Demon Sect's first Vice Sect Master's keepsake. I'll give it to you. From today onwards, my Heavenly Demon Sect no longer has a first Vice Sect leader. Whatever you want to do, you can use this token to do whatever you want. It's the authority of the first Vice Sect Master. All right. Xiao Hua, who had tasted the sweetness, took the token with a smile and said, If I don't take it, I'm afraid you won't feel at ease. Who knows? Zhang Qingxiao shrugged. Anyway, you've already accepted it. There's no point in talking about this anymore. We've boarded a pirate ship. Xiao Hua sighed. It can't be considered boarding a ship. Zhang Qingxiao shook her head. You're still you. Heavenly Demon Sect is still Heavenly Demon Sect. Only when you need Heavenly Demon Sect will this keepsake be useful. Otherwise, this keepsake will always be useless. You are not my Heavenly Demon Sect's first Vice Sect Master. Xiao Hua nodded slightly and didn't say much. Then, he looked to the north and said, The north of Huan country is now occupied by sword cultivators. I want to take a look before going to Sky Patrol City. Second senior brother, you and I will take our leave now. Are you going to Huan country's Heavenly Demon Sect? And, of course I'm going. Zhang Qingxiao cupped her hands and said, Let's part here. All right. Xiao Hua said and flew away. You're really leaving? Zhang Qingxiao's face revealed a strange expression. She pointed at Tianzhu Peak and said, That child has already climbed so high in this world of ice and snow. He really doesn't care about his life. It seems like there's something going on. Aren't you going to care? This young man is too shrewd. Xiao Hua said calmly, When I saved the first child, I already asked him. It was this young man's idea to come to Tianzhu Peak. He has a blood feud and wanted to attract the attention of others. So, he brought these children to Tianzhu Peak. The bet and so on were all planned by him. Naturally, he wanted to kill two birds with one stone. He wanted to use the children's lives to attract the pity of us cultivators so that he could have a chance to encounter an opportunity for cultivation. I don't like such a scheming person. How can I reach out and care about his matters? Ha, so you're not a good person. Zhang Qingxiao laughed loudly. Her face was full of interest. Looking at the foot of the mountain, she said, "This child has such a scheme, such shrewdness, and even such perseverance. He's a good talent that my heavenly demon sect needs. I can't do without taking him into the sect. Whether you take him in or not is your business. Just don't use my name." Xiao Hua said coldly. When you need my heavenly demon sect to broadcast good seeds to you, you don't say that I'm using your name." Zhang Qingxiao laughed. It seemed that she really had the intention to use Taoist Master Zhao's name. "Do as you wish." Thinking of Zhong Haoran's plan, Xiao Hua's heart stirred. Waving his hand, he said, "I'm leaving. After I finish Lu Er's matter, I'll bring him to see you." "Okay." Zhang Qingxiao nodded, but his brows furrowed. With a flash, he flew down Tianzhu Peak. It seemed that the young man was in danger. Xiao Hua's face was as calm as water. He flew into the sky and headed north of Huan country. The north of Huan country was naturally extremely cold, very similar to the north of Shi country. In addition, the rich land of fish and rice near Tianzhu Peak was also nowhere to be seen. All that was seen and heard was bitter cold. Along the way, Xiao Hua naturally scattered spirit seeds on the ground. As for who could pick them up, or whether these good seeds could sprout, Xiao Hua didn't care. After all, spirit seeds were the same as a human's cultivation. They all needed luck. Some spirit seeds fell into the mud and immediately decayed. Some spirit seeds fell into rocks and immediately dried up. Some spirit seeds fell into trees and immediately became bird food. Only those seeds that fell into fertile fields could germinate into rice. Alas, although I have some vague directions. But if I start, it's extremely difficult. Xiao Hua flew in the air while his thoughts ran wild. He roughly looked through the jade slips given by Zhang Qingxiao, and even those magic slips. There were all kinds of strange cultivation methods in them. Xiao Hua could easily learn some of them, but he couldn't understand some of them even after looking at them for half a day. If he were to absorb the essence of these cultivation methods, comprehend the experience, and create his own cultivation method, it wouldn't be something that could be done in a day or two. Thinking back to the day when I created my own foundation establishment cultivation method, it was so easy. Why is it so difficult to face these? Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. Actually, he knew in his heart that it was a matter of life and death that day. The choice of life or death forced him to create his own cultivation method. If it was now, it would be really difficult for him to create another cultivation method. That theory of rules is really fresh. Xiao Hua thought again. But thinking about it, isn't there the fluctuation of rules in space? It's normal to pay attention to this in terms of cultivation methods. I'm thinking of creating my own cultivation method now, but I'm still looking for something far away. That sword plays the world, and that heaven-shocking stick. Don't they all contain a kind of rule? Maybe, if I first understand these two secret techniques, I'll be able to protect myself against an opponent as strong as Ji Peng. Xiao Hua had a plan in his heart. He clapped his hands, took out another jade slip, and sighed. Damn it, the heavenly demon sect is really powerful. They even got the list of nascent soul and gold core cultivators from the 3 countries who went to the Sky Patrol City. I don't know when my fortune gate will be able to do that. Jing Ran went to the Sky Patrol City, the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain went to the Sky Patrol City, and even Zhu Qinghe and Qian Diheng went to the Sky Patrol City. Damn it, the Sky Patrol City is very lively now. Xiao Hua shrunk his neck and laughed. I won't go to such a lively place. Whether the old devils of the snow region know the truth or not, I won't take the risk. That's right, Qian Diheng went to the Sky Patrol City. Is he going to ask me for a rejuvenation pill? Xiao Hua suddenly remembered. I haven't refined it in the past few years. Caw, just as Xiao Hua's imagination was running wild, a powerful bird cry suddenly came from above Xiao Hua's head. That sound was like the cry of a bird, but also like thunder. It rushed into Xiao Hua's ears and shook his thoughts into chaos. Even his entire body rapidly fell several meters. Who is it? Xiao Hua activated the secret technique of God guidance and swept his divine sense over this extreme discomfort. He was stunned. He saw that in the sky, there was a giant peng bird that was several hundred feet in size. It spread its wings and covered the sky nearby. On the back of the giant peng bird stood a giant and a dwarf. These two people were quite strange. Xiao Hua couldn't help but look at them a few more times. He saw that the giant was taller than the one Xiao Hua had seen before. It was about 3 zhang tall. Its arms were thick and large, and its body was well built. What was even more special was that it had a big red nose on its forehead. It was very eye-catching. As for the dwarf, it was the first time Xiao Hua saw it. It was shorter than an ordinary person by more than half, barely reaching the giant's knee. Although the dwarf was very small, it seemed that the dwarf was much more shrewd than the giant. Because the dwarf's 2 small eyes flashed with an extremely cunning light. Looking at the giant peng bird that was bigger than his phoenix celestial body, Xiao Hua's heart trembled. When the giant peng bird's eyes swept over him like sword light, Xiao Hua almost felt that his whole body was about to be pierced by this gaze. This giant peng bird. Is it a demonic beast? Is it the spirit beast of this giant or dwarf? Xiao Hua clapped his hands and took out the wishful staff. His body slowly descended. Chapter 27:41. It was as if the rock only wanted Xiao Hua to land and did not force him. Instead, it flapped its wings, causing a gust of wind to blow as it followed Xiao Hua down from the sky. Xiao Hua found an ice mountain and landed on top of it. His eyes narrowed as he looked at the rock that was slowly descending from 100 zhang away. The rock was indeed huge. When it was still 100 zhang away from the ice mountain, the snow and ice on top of the mountain was blown away by the gust of wind from its wings. When the rock landed on top of the mountain, cracking sounds could be heard as many cracks appeared on the ice. With a ping sound, the giant jumped down from the rock's back, creating a deep hole in the snow under his feet. The giant even jumped a few more steps and rushed to Xiao Hua's side. With a flip of his hand, he actually pulled out a huge mace from his back. Looking at the dwarf, his figure was very vigorous as he somersaulted in the air and landed on top of the snow. Then, he jogged a few times and clapped his hands. From his storage bag, he took out 2 small yellow sticks. The front of the sticks was slightly bulging, as if they were used to grind medicine. The great rock let out a long cry, the sound reverberating in all directions. The ice that had already cracked earlier cracked even more. As the great rock let out a long cry, its wings, which were hundreds of feet long, shrank rapidly. Its entire body shrank as well, and even its head gradually transformed. A human face with long and narrow cheeks, thin and long eyes, and a slightly protruding mouth appeared. In the blink of an eye, the huge rock's body and wings disappeared. A slightly tall old man with a pale golden face appeared in front of Xiao Hua. Bird cultivator. Xiao Hua suddenly realized. The moment the old man's figure appeared, an aura that was like a sharp sword came out of his body. Of course, this aura was just a flash, but Xiao Hua still saw it clearly. Peak of the 3rd grade illusory sword. Just half a step away from the sword transformation realm. I am Kun Mogu Chipeng. The old man revealed his figure and stood there like a mountain. His sharp eyes swept over Xiao Hua several times as he coldly said, "You. Which Dao sect's disciple are you from?" You actually dare to openly peep at my sword domain's territory. I am Imperial Thunder Sex Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua wasn't cowardly at all. He replied indifferently, this is my Lien Kingdom's territory. When did it become your sword cultivator's territory? Hee hee, kid. This place has long since been conquered by the warriors of my sword region. It's already the location of my sword region. The dwarf said with a sinister smile. Aren't you a disciple of the Dao sect participating in the battle? Who are you? Xiao Hua looked at the dwarf and said, this Xiao doesn't talk to nameless people. You. The dwarf was slightly angry, but when he looked at Xiao Hua, he was actually somewhat afraid and didn't dare to step forward. Instead, he clenched his teeth and said, I am Gao Dezhuang, the cave master of Cloud Mist Cave. He is one of the most famous people in this war. Haven't you heard of him? Gao Dezhuang. Xiao Hua almost wanted to grin, but he forcefully held back his laughter. He blinked his eyes and said, This Xiao has only heard of the names of Qin Jian, Lu Ruochang, and the others. I have never heard of Gao Dezhuang. I've never even heard of Qi Peng's name. It doesn't matter if you haven't heard of my name. Qi Peng wasn't angry at all. He wasn't like Gao Dezhuang who was about to stomp his feet. He said coldly, you only need to have heard of Ling Yunwu, Yuan Qing, Yu Ming, and Qin Jian. Oh. Hearing these names, Xiao Hua understood in his heart. Although he didn't know the names of Yuan Qing and Yuan, Ling Yunwu, Yu Ming, and Qin Jian were all his former opponents. How could he not know that Qi Peng had already seen through him? I am Lien Xiao Chao of the Mountain Crossing Ridge. Xiao Hua, you have consecutively defeated my Mountain Crossing Ridge's warriors. Today, I must fight you. The giant couldn't compare to the shrewdness of the dwarf and couldn't help but shout. Lien Xiao Chao. Hearing the giant's name, Xiao Hua couldn't help but laugh. This name was too interesting. Compared to these two names, his own name, Xiao Hua, was really insignificant. Terrifying Phoenix. Do you want me to personally call you that? Qi Peng looked at Xiao Hua who was about to laugh and coldly called out. He patted his hand and took out a sword scroll. He looked at it with his divine sense and then looked at Xiao Hua's face. He coldly snorted, although I have never seen you before, your reputation is really resounding in my sword domain. This sword domain's #1 bounty. It's been a bounty for a long time. Oh. There's actually a bounty for me. And it's #1. Xiao Hua was startled. He really didn't think that there would be a bounty for him, and it was actually #1. You naturally won't be #1. However, with Li Zongbao and Xiao Mao, you guys are naturally #1. Gao Dezhuang also coldly snorted and said. Can you let me see this bounty? Xiao Hua was very curious and reached out his hand. TSK as expected of the terrifying Phoenix. Qi Peng laughed, truly a skilled and bold person. Facing the three of us, you're actually so calm. I really have no choice but to admit defeat. As he spoke, Qi Peng waved his hand and the sword scroll flew in front of Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua's divine sense scanned the sword scroll and knew that there were no hidden cards inside. He then took it and looked inside with his divine sense for a while. He touched his nose with his hand and laughed, hee hee, inside this. The three of us don't seem to be very similar. At least, I'm not really handsome. Haha Xiao Hua, you're really interesting. Qi Peng clapped his hands, I really can't think of anything. You're just a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator, what kind of hidden cards can you have? Even if you can suppress your cultivation, you're at most at the early stage of golden core, right? You're actually not afraid at all. I'm speaking the truth. The images in this bounty really don't look like me, Li Zongbao and the others. Xiao Hua's face was filled with helplessness. Moreover, this bounty. Isn't it too little? It's a far cry from my Dao sect's #1 bounty. It's not generous enough, not generous enough. Nonsense, those who saw you were all disciples who were pregnant and drew their swords. They couldn't explain it clearly, so the images they drew were all different. As for the illusory swordsmen who saw you, none of them are alive, so how can there be a real image? Lian Xiaochao coldly snorted. However, from today onwards, at least one of the images in this bounty can be real. You're wrong. From today onwards, this bounty will still be blurry. Gao Dizhuang continued. Why? Lian Xiaochao was somewhat puzzled. We can naturally correct Xiao Hua's image. Gao Dizhuang sneered. Xiao Hua is dead, so naturally there's no need to correct it. But Xiao Hua isn't dead. Lian Xiaochao was even more puzzled. Moreover, I don't have the confidence to kill him. The three of us working together, can't we kill him? Gao Dezhuang really wanted to pinch Lian Xiaocao's ear and tell him. What? The three of us working together. Lian Xiaochao couldn't accept it as soon as he heard it. He poked the mace in his hand into the ice under his feet. With a dong sound, he stood there straight. He waved his hand and said, he's just a Foundation establishment disciple. I know he's strong and has forced back a few of my subordinates. That's why I want to fight with him. If the three of you work together, I definitely won't do it. You. Gao Dezhuang was a little dumbfounded. He didn't expect the giant to be so straightforward, and he also didn't expect Lian Xiaochao to say such words in front of him. He somewhat resentfully glared at Lian Xiaochao, and then looked at Qi Ping. Not to mention Gao Dezhuang, even Xiao Hua himself was stunned. He looked up and down at Lian Xiaochao, who didn't seem to be pretending. Then, he folded his arms, clamped the wishful steel mace in his armpit, and looked at Qi Ping with a smile, as if he was waiting for Qi Peng's answer. That's right. Qi Ping also coldly said, although the terrifying phoenix has killed many warriors of our sword region, he is still a Foundation establishment disciple. Even when he fought with our sword region's illusory swordsmen, he was alone. I have never heard of him joining forces with that Dao sect disciple. According to the rules of our illusory sword domain, we can't work together to kill him. Even you and I are third-grade illusory swordsmen. We can't fight with a Foundation establishment disciple. But Gao Dazhuang's face was anxious. He's a terrifying phoenix. He's not an ordinary Foundation establishment cultivator. Yes, it's because he's not an ordinary Foundation establishment cultivator. He might even be a golden core cultivator. Moreover, he has killed many warriors of our illusory sword domain, so we have to fight with him. Qi Peng's face was cold as he lightly said. That's right, this is a time of war. What one-on-one fight? What alliance? It doesn't matter. Gao Dezhuang anxiously said, if we kill this terrifying phoenix, we'll take credit in front of the swordsman. Chapter 2742. Good, Xiao Hua almost wanted to clap his hands. This Daoist war had been going on for close to 10 years. He had seen swordsmen who were both real and fake. Some were as cunning as Qin Jian and Guan Peng, some were as resourceful as LV Ruochang and Ling Yunwu, some were as reasonable as Gu Yu, and some were as honest as Ji Yi. However, the only one who truly adhered to his principles was this Qi Ping in front of him. And Lian Xiaochao. With such people in this world, with such virtuous opponents, Xiao Hua did not feel lonely at all. You all must be crazy. Gao Dezhuang was in disbelief. He really could not understand what the two were thinking. He jumped up and said, "You all have to look carefully. This is a great enemy of our sword region. It is this Foundation establishment disciple who killed Ling Yunwu and more than 10 people from the Lingfeng sword sect at Mao Quanjin. It is this person who drove Yu Ming crazy. It is this person who killed Qin Jian. It is this person who killed so many swordsmen of our sword region. You all are going to let him go just like this. Who said we are going to let him go?" Lien Xiaochao roared and picked up his mace. He shouted, "I am going to kill him with my mace. That's right. Today, even if I die, I will make him stay here." Qi Peng's face flashed with a yellow light. A strange fluctuation appeared around him as he said coldly, "But, you all, do not have any confidence." Gao Dizhuang was about to cry. He can even kill Qin Jian, who is a third-grade illusory sword expert. You all, if you fight him alone, won't you all die? A warrior can be killed, but his will cannot be humiliated. Qi Ping said faintly. If I don't even have this awareness, how can I step into the sword transformation realm? Crazy, crazy. You all are crazier than Yu Ming. Gao Dizhuang stamped his feet. Brother Qi, are you going to do it or should I? Lien Xiaochao drew a big circle with his mace and said loudly, "This terror phoenix has left a huge name in our mountain crossing ridge. All the boy who heard the name of the terror phoenix would be afraid. I cannot not fight with him. Let me do it." Qi Ping laughed. Your cultivation level is slightly lower than mine. Against this cruel and terrifying phoenix, you have less confidence than me. Okay. Lien Xiaochao propped her mace on the ground and said, "Old brother Qi, go." Ha ha ha. Seeing this, Xiaohua raised his head and laughed loudly. He pointed at Qi Ping and said, "Old man Qi, you keep talking about principles, but didn't you think about it? This Xiao is just a Foundation establishment cultivator. You, a third-grade illusory swordsman, don't you feel that you are lowering your status by fighting against this Xiao? Don't you feel embarrassed?" Hee hee, of course I have my principles. Qi Ping sneered. But I'm not pedantic. I've already said that even though you seem to be at Foundation establishment, you definitely possess the strength of a Jin Dan cultivator. Otherwise, Qin Jian wouldn't have fallen. Moreover, this is a time of war, and I'm not transforming into a sword. Even if I attack an aura refining disciple, it's absolutely not against the rules. Alright, if that's the case. It seems that this Xiao has no choice but to fight. Xiaohua said coldly as he twirled the staff in his hand. That's right. Unless this old man dies. Don't even think about leaving this place. Qi Ping spread out his hands, and 2 yellow lights flashed. 2 rows of orange-yellow feathers rushed out from his arms like flying swords. Wait. Xiaohua hurriedly said. What else do you have to say? Qi Ping slightly stagnated. The orange sword light condensed and didn't shoot out. Can this Xiao choose his own opponent? Xiaohua said in a low voice. Choose. Qi Ping was stunned, and Gao Dazhuang's expression changed. He tightened his grip on his mace, as if he understood that Xiaohua was looking for him. I, a Foundation establishment cultivator, can't choose my opponent when facing 3 illusory swordsmen. Xiaohua said very innocently. His gaze went past Qi Ping and fell on Gao Dazhuang. No. Of course not. Gao Dizhuang jumped up and said, This is a battlefield, not a competition. The purpose of us besieging you is to kill you. That's right. Qi Ping sneered. In front of the 3 of us, you're just a fish on the chopping block. What qualifications do you have to be on the chopping block? Hand over your life. As Qi Peng's voice fell, the orange-yellow brilliance on the wings left his body and turned into specks of small swords, rushing towards Xiaohua like a flash flood. Woo, woo, countless strange sounds rang out as the light feathers shot out. Similarly, a hurricane was stirred up nearby. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth within a radius of several hundred feet converged towards this location. The light feathers transformed from small swords into flying swords. Ha ha ha, who said this young master is a fish on the chopping block? Even if this young master is a small fish, you guys are still 3 inches long shrimps. Xiaohua laughed loudly. He clapped his hands, and the Kunlun mirror flew up into the sky. Xiaohua pointed his hand, and a green light flashed on the mirror, and a green light rushed out. After the green light appeared, every strand of light began to expand. The heaven and earth spirit chi that was absorbed by the light feather rapidly converged towards these strands of light. Strands of green wood that were thinner than a strand of hair began to transform from these strands of light. Rumble, in the blink of an eye, the green wood absorbed a huge amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy and turned into hundreds and thousands of small green wood. They also rushed toward Qi Peng's flying swords like a flood. Qi Peng didn't underestimate Xiaohua. At this time, his heart tightened, and he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Unlike Gao Dezhuang and Lian Xiaochao, Qi Peng was currently facing the torrent of green wood. Although the thousands of green wood were attacking his sword light in a disorderly manner, Qi Peng was keenly aware that these green wood were not without order. There was even a kind of magic formation faintly revealed within these green wood. All the green wood faintly overflowed with intertwining magic power fluctuations, and these fluctuations occasionally flashed with a kind of indescribable confinement power. This power not only enveloped his sword light, it also enveloped the space of around 100 feet around him. The strangeness of this magic treasure was far from what Qi Peng had seen the Dao sect cultivators use before. Although the power of this Kunlun mirror might not be able to threaten Qi Peng, but it was enough to make him look at Xiaohua in a new light. Isn't this the power of sword transformation? Qi Peng was shocked. Although he hadn't stepped into sword transformation, he could already see a trace of the mysteries of sword transformation. Naturally, he could see the difference. Then, Qi Peng understood. The Dao sect spells are indeed endless. Although this Xiaohua's cultivation is only at the golden core stage, he can actually comprehend this. No wonder Qin Jian fell in his hands. I'm afraid my feather arrow technique won't be able to block it. Just as Qi Peng understood, the two torrents collided. Rumble, loud noises rang out unceasingly. The light sword pierced into the green wood, and pieces of the green wood's brilliance were annihilated. At the same time, the green wood crushed the light sword under the wooden wheel. Boundless brilliance soared into the sky, illuminating the surroundings. The green brilliance intertwined with the orange brilliance, flickering intensely. Similarly intense fluctuations and surging hurricanes were also born from the foot of the mountain. Even someone as strong as Qi Peng didn't expect that the attack just now would be so powerful. His arms trembled slightly, while protecting his body, he slowly retreated more than 10 feet. However, just as Qi Peng was about to activate the feather arrow technique again, Xiaohua's action stunned him again. Attack! Xiaohua's figure flew into the air with the force of this attack. He patted his hand and actually took out a mace that was twice as big as the one in front of Lian Xiaochao. He abandoned Qi Peng and unexpectedly swung it towards Lian Xiaocao's head. "Io, you're courting death." Lian Xiaochao was obviously caught unprepared. When he saw that the wind from Xiaohua's mace had already rushed to his forehead, he finally came to his senses. He roared angrily and dragged the mace into the air in an extremely embarrassing manner. However, this mace was not only a little crooked, but also a lot of mud splashed onto his face. Bang! A sound that wasn't any weaker than the sound of the Kunlun mirror colliding with the arrow rang out. The two huge spiked maces collided with each other. Even Xiao Cao's arm swayed a bit. Even the solid ice under his huge body had long shattered. What surprised Qi Ping the most was that Xiao Hua's Kunlun mirror that blocked his feather arrow technique actually didn't put it into the storage bag. Instead, it quietly floated above Xiao Hua's head. Although the mirror flashed a faint tricolored brilliance from time to time, there was no fluctuation of magic power. It was obviously condensed and not released, and was extremely vigilant against him. This Xiao Hua, what is he doing? Qi Ping was somewhat confused. Could it be that he wants to fight 1 against 2, 1 against 3? Even if he's in the late stage of Jin Dan, he can't be so arrogant. However, Qi Ping didn't dare to be careless. The orange brilliance around his body flashed again. The wings that had already spread out several feet slowly expanded. Although he didn't go forward to attack Xiao Hua with Lian Xiaochao, and just as he said before, only one of them was facing Xiao Hua, he still revealed himself, and was always on guard against Xiao Hua's counterattack. Valley Master Qi. When Gao Dezhuang saw Xiao Hua first attack Qi Ping, then provoke Lian Xiaochao, his heart finally relaxed. The fear that suddenly appeared in his heart slowly disappeared. At this time, when he saw Qi Ping on guard, he hurriedly shouted, "This Xiao Hua is bluffing. Don't look at how arrogant he is. He's just looking for the weakest among us 3 to force us to make the first move. This guy will definitely escape after fighting with Lian Xiaochao for a while. Valley Master Qi, please be prepared." At this time, Qi Peng's figure was already 50% illusory. His upper body was still in human form. When he heard Gao Dazhuang's words, a trace of understanding flashed in his eyes, but then his eyes flashed with displeasure. When Gao Dezhuang saw this, although Qi Ping didn't say anything, he immediately shut his mouth. He knew that his words had exposed some of Qi Peng's plans. It had the meaning of trying to be clever and making a fool of himself. Chapter 2743. Then Gao Dezhuang stole a glance at Xiao Hua, only to find that Xiao Hua was not paying attention to them at all. At this moment, Xiao Hua's movements were vigorous. His figure was like a gentle breeze, but the spiked club in his hand was like a thunderbolt. The rumbling sounds were like that of a real thunder god. With a wave of his arm, it was born. Lian Xiaochao was the cave master of Uni Cave and the leader of the giant tribe. His skills were naturally not comparable to ordinary giants. Not only did his arms have infinite strength, but he also had the secret staff technique of Uni Cave. This staff technique was unparalleled in the Huan country. Even against an illusory swordsman, Lian Xiaochao would not be at a disadvantage. However, in this short period of time, Lian Xiaochao had already clashed with Xiao Hua more than 10 times. Lian Xiaochao felt that Xiao Hua was almost like a hard stone wall. Every time the maces collided with each other, it would make his arms feel numb and he couldn't use his strength in an instant. This was a situation he had never encountered before. He knew in his heart that Xiao Hua's strength was definitely not inferior to his. In fact, Xiao Hua was even a little stronger than him. If he let Xiao Hua go crazy like this, he would only be at a disadvantage. The strength of his arms would become more and more slack. In the end, he would not be able to lift the mace. Roar! Lian Xiaochao roared. Under the fight with Xiao Hua, his body staggered a few steps. He took a deep breath and his whole body was suffused with a bronze luster. When Xiao Hua saw this, he sensed a kind of obscure fluctuation coming from Lian Xiaocao's body. He couldn't help but feel surprised. He had always thought that the giants relied on their physical strength and innate physical bodies to fight, but he didn't expect that they also practiced martial arts. Sure enough, as the luster flashed around Lian Xiaocao's body, not only did the strength of Lien Xiaocao's arms gradually increase, but the mace technique also changed. Good, good, good. Xiao Hua's eyebrows twitched and he was overjoyed. After shouting 3 times, he clapped his hands and the mace in his hand returned to the space. The wishful staff appeared. Woo! The wind whistled, like an ear-piercing scream, and greeted the mace. For a time, the entire nameless foothills were filled with the shadows of the staff. One of them was like a wave, while the other was like a tidal wave crashing against the shore. At first, the sounds of weapons clashing sounded like beans being fried in a hot pan. Crackling sounds rang out incessantly, but after the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the sounds of weapons clashing lessened, and could only be heard occasionally. However, this sound was extremely powerful. Although the sound did not disappear, Gao Dezhuang, who was watching from the side, trembled every time he heard the sound. His eyes flashed with hope. It seemed like it was because Xiao Hua had chosen Lien Xiaocao instead of him, Gao Dezhuang. Even Qi Ping, whose entire body had transformed into a giant rock that was hundreds of feet in size, was somewhat perplexed by the situation with his eyes that were as sharp as swords. Because in his opinion, although Lien Xiaocao's mace did not lose to Xiao Hua's wishful staff in terms of momentum, and even took the upper hand after Lien Xiaocao activated her secret technique, forcing Xiao Hua to fly around in the air to dodge. But now, Xiao Hua was still flying in the air like the wind, and Lien Xiaocao was like a reef standing in the tide. She could only try her best to wave her mace and stand there, not daring to move at will. This time, Xiao Hua was attacking her differently. Could it be Lien Xiaocao's plan to lure the enemy? Qi Ping secretly guessed, how can this Xiao Hua have such divine power? According to the defeated giant, Xiao Hua should not be Lien Xiaocao's opponent. Could it be that Xiao Hua's strength has improved again during this time? This is not possible. Strength is not magical power. Not good. Just when Qi Ping was pondering, he saw Xiao Hua's figure flashing strangely with the wishful staff. It was like an afterimage, but also like a clone. Lien Xiaocao was so scared that she turned her body sideways. The mace flashed slightly, and the huge wolf teeth flashed a cold light and hit Xiao Hua's side. However, after the sound of the mace's wind, it hit nothing. Xiao Hua's wishful staff strangely came out from Lien Xiaocao's side and suddenly hit Lien Xiaocao's back. When Lien Xiaocao realized that the wishful staff was already close to her body, there was no way to avoid it. She could only roar and meet the wishful staff with her body. With a muffled sound, Lien Xiaocao's figure staggered, and the bronze luster on her back shone brightly. Ha! With Lien Xiaocao's failure, Xiao Hua's figure also appeared in the air. At this time, Xiao Hua's forehead was sweating, and his face was full of a fierce battle. He looked at Lien Xiaocao's back with amazement. At the place where the wishful staff hit, a fist-sized bulge quickly protruded. However, under the bronze luster, it slowly fell. Although it was not as fast as the bulge, it was still visible to the naked eye. Xiao Hua's staff, he knew in his heart that although he did not use his full strength and hurriedly attacked from the flaw of Lien Xiaocao's mace, the power inside was also very strong. Even if it was the sword light of the illusory sword, he was confident that he could defeat it. While even Xiao Hua himself was not confident that he would not be injured after being hit. But he did not expect that Lien Xiaocao would be able to take it head-on without being injured. Damn it, this giant clan is really powerful. Xiao Hua was a little flabbergasted. Although the giant clan does not know how to fly, their strength is very strong. Her strength was truly formidable, and even Xiaocao's staff technique was a bit strange. It seems that after every strike, there is a surplus of power. This surplus power is actually similar to my heavenly staff technique. It can be borrowed, and used in the second strike. Even the surplus power of the second strike can be used again in the third strike. In this way, it is really a bit of a cycle. Although this young master's staff can borrow power, it can only be used in between a few moves. It is far from Lian Xiaocao's trickle-like flow of water. This must be a secret technique of the giant clan. Xiao Hua was not in a hurry to fight with Lian Xiaocao. Instead, he narrowed his eyes and thought, should I get this secret technique? Unfortunately, at this time, high in the sky north of the foothills, buzz buzz. Several rays of biting cold sword energy shot into the sky. Not only did the floating clouds in the sky shatter into pieces, but even the pale white sunlight changed color because of it. When Qi Ping spread his wings, the orange sword light suddenly surged, causing Qi Ping to involuntarily turn his head to look. When he looked at Xiao Hua again, the originally hidden sword energy in his body involuntarily became majestic. A kind of unconcealable sword energy was born in Xiao Hua's body. Damn it. Old Ghost Huashan is here. There are actually several of them. Xiao Hua turned pale with fright and hurriedly activated the Changbai sect's secret technique to conceal the sword energy. His whole body rushed into the air as he thought to himself, this young master was previously impatient because of that dog fart Ji Peng and almost lost his confidence. Now that I met Lian Xiaocao, the fight was extremely carefree. This young master is already satisfied and won't play with you guys anymore. This young master is leaving. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua did not say anything else. His body turned into the wind and floated towards the south. My eyes, did I see wrongly? Lian Xiaocao was somewhat stunned. Even when Xiao Hua flew over his head, he was still at a loss. Because Lian Xiaocao was facing the north, he had seen the sword intent that had transformed into a sword that soared into the sky. As for the brief moment that had appeared in Xiao Hua's body, the sword intent that had almost transformed into a sword had also been inadvertently seen by him. Even though he did not cultivate the flying sword, he had an extremely strong perception towards the sword intent that transformed into a sword in the sword domain. How could Lian Xiaocao not be shocked when he saw the sword intent that transformed into a sword from a Dao sect cultivator? He was really shocked to the point of losing his soul awe. Where do you think you're going? When Qi Peng's gaze came into contact with the sword energy in the distance, he immediately came to his senses and hurriedly scanned back with his divine sense. Sure enough, Xiao Hua was fleeing like a stray dog. How could he let this great enemy of the sword domain escape? With a furious roar, he spread his wings and a huge gust of wind surged from his wings. His entire body was faster than lightning as he chased after Xiao Hua's back. His claws, which were sharper than flying swords, flashed with sword light as they clawed at Xiao Hua's back. Xiao Hua did not want to expose his identity as nameless and did not dare to control the heavenly lightning and attract the sword energy to chase after him. He only used the wind escape technique to escape. He had only flown a few hundred feet when he suddenly felt a bone-piercing chill on his back. This great Peng is indeed powerful. This young master was wrong. Xiao Hua scanned with his divine sense and immediately knew that Qi Peng was chasing after him. Moreover, Qi Peng's flying speed was far faster than his wind escape technique. No wonder this guy is so confident. He is fighting with this young master alone. With this flying technique that far surpasses others. Even the golden core of the Sky Patrol City's conference hall would not be able to escape from his hands. Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows. His figure was like a loach as he dodged the moment Qi Peng's claws were about to reach him. Then, as if he was unwilling to admit defeat, Xiao Hua blindly activated the wind escape technique, escaping and dodging at the same time. However, the great Peng was indeed incomparably powerful. With just a flap of its wings, it could easily cover a distance of more than 10 li. Moreover, the arrows on its wings and its sharp claws that were comparable to flying swords could easily attack Xiaohua. For a short period of time, Xiaohua was surrounded by danger several times and was almost hit by the sharp claws. Damn it, this young master forgot that this wind escape technique is Feng Buping's talent. That guy is just a bird, similar to this great Peng. This young master's wind escape technique is somewhat comparable to your Feng Buping's. How can I fight against this valley master of the swarm of owls valley? Xiaohua tried his best to avoid Qi Peng's claws as he thought in exasperation. Immediately, Xiaohua clapped his hand and the yin-yang sword gourd appeared in his hand. He pointed his finger and said, "Quick!" Following the incantation, 2 rays of spirit-slaying yuan light rushed out from the mouth of the gourd and turned into a green and red brilliance that pounced on Qi Peng's left wing. Ah! Seeing Xiaohua take out the sword gourd, the seemingly familiar yet strange sword light spurted out from the mouth of the gourd. The incomparable killing intent immediately covered Qi Peng. Before Qi Peng could cry out in horror, the 2 sword lights had already flown between Qi Peng's left wing. Chapter 2744. Qi Peng was scared out of his wits and hastily tried to retract his wings. However, how could he retract his wings that were dozens of meters long so easily? Qi Peng had only retracted his wings by a few feet when the green-red sword light wrapped around his left wing. With a swoosh sound, the green-red sword light circled around Qi Peng's left wing. 80% of his left wing was cut off by the execution spirit vital light. As the light flickered, it was suddenly annihilated. Blood sprayed out and orange feathers scattered all over the sky. Ah! Qi Peng cried out in pain. His entire body tilted and fell down. His other wing flapped with all its might as if it was trying to maintain its balance. He really didn't expect Xiaohua's 2 sword lights to be so sharp that he couldn't resist at all. In a hurry, a dazzling light shot out from Qi Peng's right arm. It turned into an arrow and flew into the sky, as if it was sending out a distress signal. Humph! Xiaohua's cold sweat sounded in the air. You don't need to worry. I won't take your life. Why? Qi Peng looked at Xiaohua's figure that stopped in the air and asked in disbelief. You and Lian Xiaoqiao are the only worthy opponents I have met on the battlefield. Xiaohua said indifferently, just now, you all didn't just swarm me because I was alone and didn't bully me with numbers. Moreover, you also did the same in the battle just now. Although you boast that your Huan country's sword cultivators have such a bottom line, how can my cultivation 3 countries not have a bottom line comparable to yours? Based on your previous open and above-board behavior, I won't take your lives today. However, you're right. Right now, we're in the middle of a battle and now we're resting. If you and I meet again that day, don't blame me for being ruthless and taking your life. As he spoke, Xiaohua's figure suddenly fell down. Like a meteorite, he fell into the mountain peak 100 meters below and mysteriously disappeared. His terrifying phoenix. It really is a terrifying phoenix. Qi Peng was shocked and couldn't help but feel a strong lingering fear in his heart. He was very glad that when facing Xiaohua's advantage, he didn't lose his principles and didn't choose to be utilitarian like Gao Dezhuang. It was this kind of perseverance that saved his life at this moment. In other words, it saved the lives of the 3 people. To have such a worthy opponent. Isn't it my pleasure? Even if I die at the hands of such an opponent, I have no regrets. Qi Peng's heart, like Ji Ye's heart, a hero's hero. Following which, Qi Peng's figure slowly recovered. The severed arm that had fallen in mid-air also flew to his side. Qi Peng opened his mouth and spat out an orange-yellow brilliance, which covered the severed arm. As the orange-yellow brilliance retracted, the severed arm also fell into Qi Peng's mouth. The brilliance around Qi Peng's body grew brighter and a strange, rock-like Dharma idol appeared on Qi Peng's back. With a long cry, the Dharma idol disappeared again. However, with just this cry, Qi Peng's originally yellow face instantly turned deathly pale, as if he had used up a lot of his heart's blood. When the long cry disappeared, an orange-yellow brilliance shot out from Qi Peng's severed arm. A feather-like object flashed out from the brilliance. Then, the brilliance retracted and the feather gradually trembled. Countless strands of blood appeared from the brilliance and quickly wrapped around the feather. After half a cup of tea's time, another orange-yellow arm grew out from Qi Peng's left shoulder. Hee, terrifying phoenix. Even if you pay attention, to kill this Qi, you still don't have the strength to do so. Qi Peng faintly chuckled. With a pat of his hand, he took out several medicinal pills from his storage bag and threw them into his mouth without even looking. Once the medicinal effects had spread, he once again slowly flew up. Without activating his wings, he flew towards the foot of the mountain where he had previously fought with Xiao Hua. At this time, only Lien Xiaoqiao stood there in a daze. His brows were tightly knitted, as if he was thinking about something. Swordsman Lien. Qi Peng looked around and asked curiously, "Where's Swordsman Gao?" "He went to chase after Xiao Hua." Lien Xiaoqiao said casually, as if he wasn't too interested in Gao Dazhuang's whereabouts. Swordsman Lien. Qi Peng understood Lien Xiaocao's thoughts. He flew to his side and said, "That terrifying phoenix is really powerful. You don't mind it. Losing to him is nothing. You always come out unscathed. And just now, this Qi was injured by Xiao Hua's strange magic weapon. Moreover, I almost lost my life. He is actually so powerful." Lien Xiaocao's face turned pale. He didn't quite believe Qi Peng's words. Qi Peng naturally wouldn't tell him the details of how his wings were cut off by Xiao Hua. He only smiled and said, "Of course. Why would this old man lie to you? This guy can even kill Qin Jian, who is at the 3rd grade of the illusory sword. What's more, we are not real swordsmen of the sword region. Xiao Hua is indeed powerful. His arms have the strength of 10,000 caddies." Lien Xiaoqiao hesitated for a moment and said in a low voice, "Even his staff technique is unique. It's not much worse than my ancestral staff technique. He can defeat this Qi Peng and even kill this Qi Peng." This Qi Peng is convinced, but, just now, when Senior Huajian's sword intent appeared, his body also had Huajian's sword intent. That might be slightly weaker than Senior Huajian's sword intent, but it's still Huajian. What? Huajian's sword intent? Are you sure? Qi Peng was naturally shocked and asked Lien Xiaoqiao in an incredulous tone. Alas, this Qi Peng has been thinking about the Huajian's sword intent. The more I think about it, the more scared I am. Valley Master Cheat should know that although my Huajian doesn't cultivate flying swords, I'm not unfamiliar with flying swords. I'm even very sensitive to them. My Huajian lineage hid in Huajian because we couldn't cultivate flying swords. How could I be wrong about the Huajian sword intent? Since Lien Xiaoqiao said so, he revealed everything. Since Xiao Hua has Huajian's cultivation, could he be someone from the sword region? Hearing this, Qi Peng also understood Lien Xiaocao's fear. That's right, everyone in the sword region knew that when LV Ruocheng entered the sword tomb, he was lured into the 10 Directions Annihilation Formation by a Huajian sword intent. Moreover, that sword intent also contained the sword energy of the Huajian sword sect. If this Xiao Hua really had Huajian sword intent, then the matter of luring sword cultivators into the formation must have been done by him. How could a cultivator like Xiao Hua be able to cultivate Huajian in the 3 kingdoms? He must have cultivated in the sword region, but since he cultivated in the Sword region, then he must be one of the Sword region's Huajian. Qi Ping even wanted to slap his head and say the name of a certain Huajian senior. However, did Qi Ping dare? The reason why Lian Xiaocao's face was pale seemed to be because of this. To be able to sneak into the Sword region and cultivate Huajian, this Dao sect could not be said to be small. Although any Huajian couldn't destroy the Huajian Valley or Huajian Mountain Ridge, if they deliberately went against these two sects, even the many Huajian swords who came to the Lian kingdom to participate in the war would have to think twice. The more he thought, the paler Qi Peng's face became. He didn't dare to imagine, if he reported this matter to the Huajian swords, what kind of situation would that be? Suspicion and jealousy would immediately become the mainstream among the Huajian swords. There was no need to fight this battle of swords anymore. The Sword region had already lost. Be careful with your words, Qi Ping glanced at Lian Xiaocao, and there was an inexplicable meaning in their eyes. For a moment, the wind whistled in the foothills. The two of them didn't dare to say another word, as if they said half a word more, the whole battle situation would be reversed. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, an anxious voice sounded, "Valley Master Qi, Valley Master Qi." From the distant mountain rocks, a tall and strong figure suddenly appeared. His face was also pale, and even had the same fear. As soon as he saw Qi Ping, he shouted loudly. Qi Ping frowned slightly and asked, "Fellow swordsman Gao, did you catch up to Xiao Hua?" Although Gao Dezhuang was panicking, when he saw Qi Peng's frown, he immediately understood what Qi Peng was thinking. He hurriedly smiled and said, "When I saw Valley Master Qi chasing after Xiao Hua, I immediately used the earth escape technique to go in front of Xiao Hua to block him. Who would have thought that before I could escape from the earth, I saw Xiao Hua also escape into the mountain rocks? I won't hide it from Valley Master Qi, this fiend really scared me. I thought that he discovered my whereabouts, so I hid in the mountain rocks and didn't dare to move. Fortunately, that fiend didn't discover my whereabouts, but used the 5 elements escape technique." When Gao Dezhuang said this, the smile on his face didn't deepen. Instead, it slowly disappeared, and the heavy fear appeared in his eyes again. "Guess, what did I see?" "What did you see?" Qi Peng was shocked. He raised his eyes to look at Lian Xiaocao. The two of them almost thought that Gao Dezhuang also saw the Huajian swordsmanship on Xiao Hua's body. Who would have thought that Gao Dezhuang's words would make them even more shocked? Gao Mao hid for a while and saw that the fiend didn't notice Gao Mao. Instead, he swaggered and used the 5 elements escape technique. Therefore, Gao Mao boldly followed behind him, wanting to see if there was a chance to kill him in the rocks. Gao Dezhuang continued, "However, although that fiend's 5 elements escape technique isn't as wonderful as my cloud caves, it also has its own wonders. Although I could catch up, I couldn't get close." After he escaped for dozens of miles, he actually escaped from the mountain rocks again. At this point, Gao Dezhuang hesitated again. He paused for a moment and continued, "When I saw that fiend come out of the earth, I knew that I had already lost the chance to kill him. I originally wanted to return to this place. But this Gao was truly unwilling to accept this, so I quietly left the soil. However, just as this Gao came out of the soil, I heard a burst of thunder coming from above this Gao's head, that Xiao Hua actually rode on the thunder and rushed towards the south at a speed that this Gao couldn't see clearly. Humph. After an unknown period of time, Immortal Shuiyu snorted coldly, scaring Jin Kang and Fong Langbai. The two looked at each other and knew that they couldn't ignore it. They hurriedly bowed and asked, "City Lord, why are you doing this?" Didn't you hold a banquet in the city lord's mansion to invite the Yuanying stage masters from various sects? During the banquet, the masters spoke highly of Sky Patrol City. Why is the city lord so angry after returning to the mansion? A group of ignorant people, you've gone too far in bullying Sky Patrol City. As Daoist Shuiyu let out an angry roar, he slammed his palm into the air. There was a whistling sound as if there was a hurricane. Then there was a loud bang and the air suddenly exploded. Countless airwaves spread out in all directions. Golden Core disciples like Jin Kang and Fong Langbai couldn't stand still in the airwaves. They had to take a few steps back before they were able to stand still with great difficulty. However, at this time, the two of them were relieved. After all, Immortal Shuiyu was angry and pointed out the source of his anger. They should be fine. Sure enough, they heard Immortal Shuiyu say angrily, I held a banquet in the city lord's mansion to entertain them. They really think that they are the masters of Sky Patrol City. Langbai, tell me. How much did Sky Patrol City invest in this battle? How many disciples did we lose? In the face of Immortal Shuiyu's sudden question, Fong Langbai was stunned. However, he immediately replied, reporting to the city lord, Sky Patrol City's direct and indirect losses were huge. Not to mention the spiritual stones, a few spiritual stone veins were taken away by sword cultivators. Even if they were taken back, the spiritual stones inside were long gone and have been abandoned. The spiritual stones should be in the tens of millions or even hundreds of millions. What I can say is the loss of disciples in Sky Patrol City. Fong Langbi said bitterly, in the past 10 years, our Sky Patrol City has lost 138,096 disciples. Among them, the Golden Elixir disciples. Before Fong Langbai could finish, Immortal Shuiyu was furious again when he heard the shocking number. How many disciples does Sky Patrol City have in total? So many died in a battle of Dao cultivators. And what does this mean in the eyes of those ignorant people? Sky Patrol City stands in the north of the country of Shi and is the vanguard of Shi Dao sect. Sky Patrol City's actions are the example of Dao's sect. We should learn from the three kingdoms of cultivation. This old man feels that your words are truly laughable. Is my Sky Patrol City worthy of such praise? Immortal Shuiyu said angrily. In addition to this sentence, all the nascent soul cultivators at the banquet were praising one another. One said that this battle was outstanding, and one said that another sect's disciple was brave. What do they take Sky Patrol City for? Fong Langbai and Jin King lowered their heads. The corners of their eyes twitched slightly. They could hear that it was Sun Yunzi of Shanghua sect who said that Sky Patrol City was only a chess piece of Shanghua sect, a fortress. The condescending praise made them unhappy. Look at Imperial Thunder sect. Isn't that Golden Core disciple called Qian Mo self-destructing? They actually said that he was extremely loyal and brave. His schemes are unparalleled in the world. At the mention of the Imperial Thunder sect, Shuiyu became even angrier. The Imperial Thunder sect set up such a great formation in the sword domain. It's the 10-direction annihilation formation, but they didn't even greet me. Who are they guarding against? They are guarding against me. They are guarding against my Sky Patrol City. My Sky Patrol City's GMO also fell in the Sword Catacomb battle. Did anyone mention it? Furthermore, what does that bullshit Qian Mo know? No one paid attention to him in the conference hall. He only made jokes that would make people laugh. What does he know about formations? Wasn't the formation of the Sword Catacomb thought of by Tu Hong of my Sky Patrol City? Poof! There was another explosion in the void, scaring Jin Kang and Fong Lang into shrinking their necks again. Needless to say, Shuiyu's Daoist master mentioned Tu Hong and Xiao Hua again. Xiao Hua of the Imperial Thunder sect assassinated my Jin Dan stage disciple for his own selfish reasons and even usurped my Sky Patrol City's merit points. Imperial Thunder sect, they are really shameless. No wonder Qian Lei Zi didn't dare to come to Sky Patrol City. No wonder Dui Jia didn't dare to enter my Sky Patrol City. They are all up to something. When he heard up to here, Fong Langbai forcefully restrained his panic and said in a low voice, "City Governor, actually, during the banquet earlier, you should have directly exposed the thunder-controlling sect's hypocritical ghost face and asked Xiao Hua to come out and confront him." "Humph, what do you know?" Immortal Shuiyu snorted. "Imperial Thunder sect must be targeting my Sky Patrol City. They must want to expand their power in the northern part of the country of Xi. How can they leave any loopholes? Even if I say it in front of them, Qian Lei Zi is not here. Will Immortal Miyu admit it? Didn't you see that crazy genius? Damn it, he just stepped into the nascent soul realm, but his nose is already on the top of his head. Can he answer me? If I say it, it will be enough to make me lose face. Actually, City Lord, you don't have to do this. You just need to use the name of rewarding merits to send Xiao Hua to Sky Patrol City." Jean King saw that Fong Langbai had opened his mouth and he couldn't just stand there, so he quickly added, "Do you think I don't want to say it?" Immortal Shuiyu squinted at the two of them and seemed to vent his anger a little. He said, "When I just opened my mouth, Kuang Tian praised the Imperial Thunder sect's disciples for their bravery. It seemed that except for the Imperial Thunder sect, the disciples of other sects were just a mob. He even asked me about Xiao Hua's whereabouts. It was as if Xiao Hua's delay in coming to Sky Patrol City was the responsibility of Sky Patrol City." "Yes, we also heard it." Jean King hurriedly said, "Immortal He Ping of the Utopia faction praised Li Zongbao, Xiao Mao, and Xiao Hua very much. He also said that the three of them would be the rising stars of the three kingdoms of cultivation in the future. In the next sword battle, the three of them would be on duty in the conference hall." Indeed, Fong Langbai also said, "Immortal Yi Xian and Fairy Jie Qiong of the Xuanyan school even said that Xiao Mao was 100 times better than Li Zongbao. If it weren't for Immortal He Ping's excellent bearing, He Ping is the head of the Utopia faction. How could he lower himself to their level?" Immortal Shuiyu curled his lips and said, "Fairy Yingzhuo of the Xuanyan school has always been a female cultivator who is not afraid of trouble. She has always liked to join in the fun. I don't know why she suddenly went into seclusion this time. Is she really going to break through?" Chapter 2746. "I don't think so." Fong Langbai said hurriedly, "Fairy Yingzhua is already a cultivator in the late stage of the nascent soul realm. Her cultivation is even lower than that of Sun Yunzi of the Shanghua sect and Lu Anai Zhenren of the Chiqiu sect. How could she reach the soul formation realm when the two seniors didn't do anything? Could it be that Senior Yingzhua has some scruples like Qian Lazy?" Jean King glanced at Master Xue and asked in a low voice. "Maybe." Master Xue waved his hand impatiently. "Langbai, those gold core cultivators in the conference hall made such a big move and you didn't know anything about it." With a plop, Fong Langbai's face turned as white as snow. He hurriedly knelt on the ground and begged, "City Lord, this is all my fault. My arrangements were wrong and delayed City Lord's plan. Get up." Master Xue said coldly, "You're also a gold core cultivator. There's no reason for you to kneel. This subordinate." Fong Langbai still didn't dare to get up, and said in a low voice, "This subordinate is the City Lord's subordinate, and also stepped into the Golden Core realm under the City Lord's guidance. This subordinate naturally wouldn't kneel to anyone else, but it's only right for this subordinate to kneel to the City Lord. Humph, get up. Master Shui sneered, you didn't make much contribution in this battle, but you made a lot of mistakes. However, you've been working hard for my Sky Patrol City. Even if you don't have any merits, you've still worked hard. Think about how you'll be punished after the battle and report to me. Yes. I know. I'll definitely do my best for the Sky Patrol City. Fong Langbai didn't dare to kneel anymore. He hurriedly got up, wiped the sweat on his forehead and said in a low voice. Please punish yourself too. Jean Kang, who was next to him, hurriedly said, what this subordinate has done is not as much as others, so there are fewer mistakes, but I have neither merit nor fault, please punish me, City Lord. Humph, you're the same as Lang Bai. We'll talk about it after the battle. Master Shui's face turned ugly, but there was no anger in his eyes. Besides, what about Wu Ming from the thunder-controlling sect? However, Sage Shuayu's casual question startled Fong Langbai. He quickly smiled and said, I only know that Nameless appeared in the Seven Extremes Ridge once and then appeared in the Sword Catacomb. As for who he is, I don't know. This person's cultivation is amazing. He can actually conceive a baby in the Sword Tomb. This really surprises this old man. Shuayu's spiritual master didn't blame Fong Langbai this time. He said lightly, it would be strange if you found out about such a mysterious person. Then, he laughed at himself and said, it's not just you. Even the current thunder-controlling sect is having a headache because they don't know which Thunder Palace this Wu Ming is from. Facing Sun Yunzi and Reverend Lu Su's questions, Reverend Miyu doesn't even know how to answer. Actually, Fong Lang hesitated and said in a low voice, in my opinion, the thunder-controlling sect might know who Wu Ming is. Oh. What do you think? Shuayu asked, slightly taken aback. City Lord, think about it. Is it easier to dodge a spear in the open or an arrow in the dark? Fong Langbai didn't dare to say more. Good, Shuayu's spiritual master immediately understood. He clapped his hands and said, Lang, you're really smart. The thunder-controlling sect only has so many late-stage gold core disciples. How could they not know who Wu Ming is? Their spiritual master Quangtian has just advanced to the nascent soul realm and has been targeted by the Shanghua sect, Xuanyan school, and Chiqiao sect. This Wu Ming. I'm afraid he didn't want to attract the attention of the three sects, so he came to my Sky Patrol City to find a chance to conceive a baby. But it just so happened that it caused such a big sensation. It's hard for Wu Ming not to be famous. Not to mention my Sky Patrol City, the Shanghua sect and the other two sects must have sent more people to find Wu Ming. Under such circumstances, would the thunder-controlling sect dare to expose Wu Ming's background? Yes, you're right, City Lord. Fong Langbai hurriedly smiled. I just thought that Wu Ming wanted to hide his cultivation and didn't want others to know. I didn't think that City Lord had thought so thoroughly and so much. City Lord. Jean King didn't dare to say much so that Fong Langbai could perform more. But when he heard this, his face suddenly changed and he hurriedly said, I suddenly have an idea. I don't know if I should say it. Say it, Shuayu's spiritual master waved his hand. What can't you say in the City Lord's mansion? This subordinate also suddenly had a thought, that Wu Ming. Is he Xiaohua? These words were like a bolt of lightning that flashed across the entire mansion. Shuayu and Fong Langbai were both startled, especially Fong Langbai. He excitedly said, that's right, Lord City Lord, it really is possible. Only Xiaohua, who is nameless and possesses strength at the peak of the late Jindan stage, is able to assassinate junior brother Tu Hong, kill Qin Jian, and establish such a meritorious service. Shuayu's spiritual master's eyes flashed with surprise and then disappeared. He looked at the excited Fong Langbai and shook his head. I'm afraid it's not right. Why? Fong Langbai didn't understand. Haha, it's simple. That Wu Ming is a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect of unknown origin to us. Of course, in the Imperial Thunder sect, it's impossible for him to be unknown. Shuiyu's spiritual master said with a smile. And Xiaohua is a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect of the Imperial Thunder sect. No matter how high his cultivation is, it's impossible for him to surpass the mid-stage gold core realm. Don't forget, Qian Mo of the Heavenly Thunder Palace is only at the mid-stage gold core realm. The Imperial Thunder sect can't send another mid-stage gold core disciple to hide among them. Also, Xiaohua and that Cui something are fellow disciples. Their master seems to have just reached the late-stage foundation establishment realm. How could Xiaohua be pregnant? Of course, you can also say that Xiaohua was only a mid-stage foundation establishment realm disciple when he first came to our Sky Patrol city. In these 10 years. And, in the Mount Quanjin array, his cultivation improved by leaps and bounds. But, do you think he can be pregnant in such a short time? But, he was able to assassinate Junior 2 and kill Qin Jian. Fong Langbai said with some dissatisfaction. When he assassinated Tu Hong, he didn't use our Dao sex technique. I don't know how he killed Qin Jian, but I know that from the mid-stage foundation establishment realm to the core formation realm, 10 years, is possible. But from the mid-stage gold core realm to the core formation realm, 10 years, is absolutely impossible. Not to mention from the mid-stage foundation establishment realm to the core formation realm, that's hundreds of years of hard work. When it came to the core formation realm, Fong Langbai naturally couldn't debate with Shuiyu's spiritual master. Moreover, the reason they regarded Xiaohua as nameless was because of Shuiyu's assertion that it was Xiaohua who killed Tu Hong. As for this matter, it seemed like it was only a guess and was far from being true. Since it was like this, Fong Langbi could only resentfully say, Sir City Lord is right. But what if Wu Ming isn't pregnant, but core formation realm? Then that's even more nonsense. Shuiyu's spiritual master laughed and said, do you think Lu Ruochang and the other third-grade illusory swordsmen went to the sword catacomb to play? They set up the four-square sword formation to kill the hundreds of thousands of Dao sect cultivators. At the final critical moment, if they weren't suppressed by Wu Ming's nascent soul realm aura, would they let go so easily? Didn't you see Lu Ruochang forcing Wu Ming to let go in order to kill Heng Ming and the others? If it weren't for the timely battle report from the Lian Kingdom, Wu Ming would have killed Lu Ruochang and the others on the spot. You're definitely not a nascent soul realm cultivator. How could others do such a thing? Yes, that's true. I've made a mistake. Fong Langbai nodded. Shuiyu's spiritual master's words were indeed reasonable. Actually, for my Sky Patrol city, the most important thing now is not to find Wu Ming, nor to kill Xiaohua. Shuiyu's spiritual master said thoughtfully, but to find the reason why the sword catacomb disappeared. Speaking of the disappearance of the sword catacomb, Fong Langbai and Jin King were even more puzzled. Yes, this was one of the 10 most dangerous places in the Xiaoyu continent. Although it was ranked at the bottom, it was still extremely dangerous. No nascent soul realm cultivator or sword transformation cultivator dared to enter it easily. However, such a dangerous place had actually disappeared completely in the Battle of the Tao of the Sword. Other than some space cracks left behind, all the remaining arrays, sword formations, and sorrowful sword intent and sharp sword light had disappeared. This was something that they had never even dreamt of. Without the sword catacomb, the sword cultivators of the Huan country can easily enter the country of Xi. My Sky Patrol city will bear the brunt. Shuiyu's spiritual master frowned and said, facing the sword cultivators' attack head-on, my Sky Patrol city will not be able to handle it. Yes, my Sky Patrol city has suffered too much damage in this battle. I don't know if my Sky Patrol city will be able to recover in another battle in 100 years or hundreds of years. King also sighed. Fong Langbai was still frowning and said in confusion, the sword transformation sword intent in the sword catacomb, the dragon's roar before the sword catacomb disappeared, and the celestial phenomenon when Wu Ming was pregnant was different from that of ordinary cultivators. What's the connection? Although Wu Ming himself said that the disappearance of the sword catacomb had nothing to do with him, it doesn't mean that it has nothing to do with him. I was the one who said that the disappearance of the sword catacomb had nothing to do with me. Shui's spiritual master sneered, but if I said that, wouldn't I become the laughing stock of the world? Yes, I also think that even if Wu Ming is a nascent soul realm cultivator, it has nothing to do with the disappearance of the sword catacomb. King nodded, and it has nothing to do with the sword transformation sword intent. It should have something to do with the dragon's roar. The dragon's roar. Where did it come from? Shui's spiritual master was really puzzled. My Dawn Rain continent has never had such a high-level demonic beast. Langbai. How's your investigation? Fong Langbai's forehead was covered in sweat again, and he hurriedly said, I've sent many disciples to the sword catacomb, but they didn't find anything special. The fierce wind when the sword catacomb disappeared destroyed all the traces, leaving nothing behind. Yes, and 20 years ago, someone reported that many cultivators went missing in the sword catacomb. Shui's spiritual master asked again. Ah. Fong Langbai was slightly stunned, and then he smiled bitterly. Every year, many cultivators die in the sword catacomb. I've sent people to investigate the matter 20 years ago, but first, those cultivators were mostly rogue cultivators, and second, the cultivators' realms were low, at most in the late stage of foundation establishment. Weren't they seeking death by entering the sword catacomb? This matter has nothing to do with my Sky Patrol city, and I didn't find anything, so I stopped. Shui's spiritual master seemed to ask casually, and then he looked outside the palace door, as if thinking about something. Fong Langbai let out a long sigh of relief, and looked at King, who was also very cautious, and felt that his back was wet. Actually. After a long time, Shui's spiritual master's faint voice sounded from his mouth, I'm angry today, not because of your mistakes, and not because of the heavy losses of my Sky Patrol city. When Fong Langbai and King heard this, they couldn't help but be stunned, and looked at each other in shock. Their eyes were filled with deep vigilance. After the banquet, Sun Yunzi of the Shanghua sect said a few words to me. Shui's spiritual master seemed to be speaking calmly, but his tone was heavy and filled with unwillingness. Fong Langbai and King knew that this was definitely not the time for them to ask questions, so they closed their mouths and quietly waited for Shui's spiritual master to explain. Now, the great war of Dao and sword has come to an end. The sword cultivators attacked our 3 cultivation countries en masse, and a large area of the Ripple country fell into their hands. Looking at the war over the past 10 years, this sword cultivator Lu Ruochang is truly amazing. His control of all the formations and formations can be described as flawless, unpredictable, and so on. At this point, Master Shui paused for a moment. Chapter 2747. Fong Langbai and the others nodded as they listened. That was right. The sword cultivator's plan was perfect in this battle. It was simply flawless. Not to mention the Golden Core cultivators in the conference hall, even if they were to face LV Ruochang, they would not be able to escape the fate of being defeated. Master Shui paused for a moment and said, in the beginning, when they attacked the territory, we thought that the sword cultivators were training their disciples like before. Then, when they attacked the spirit stone mine, we thought that they wanted to snatch the spirit stones. Finally, when they set up the formation in the sword catacomb, we thought that they wanted to kill our disciples. However, no one expected LV Ruochang to come up with a plan that revealed their ultimate goal. They wanted to occupy the land of the Lian Kingdom. Throughout the 10 Years' War, LV Ruochang led the Golden Core cultivators in the meeting hall by the nose. Compared to her, the Golden Core cultivators in the meeting hall were simply a group of Jurassic beasts. I don't know how this little girl planned it. Even I can't figure out what she's thinking. Master Shuiyu sighed. If. Sigh, there's no if. Tu Hong was assassinated by Xiao Hua, which destroyed the foundation of our sect. It would be strange if we didn't lose the war. Jin Kang and Fong Langbai were puzzled when they heard that Master Shuiyu was talking about the war and seemed to have nothing to do with Sun Yunzi. They thought about it as they listened, but they did not expect Master Shuiyu to say anything. Now that the sword cultivators of the Huan Kingdom have retreated from the Sky Patrol City and went around the sword catacomb to the Lian Kingdom, our Sky Patrol City is no longer a stronghold. If the meeting hall is set up in our Sky Patrol City, it will be disadvantageous for the war. Master Shuiyu finally said, Sun Yunzi has already discussed with the sect leaders of the other 2 kingdoms to move the meeting hall to the Lian Kingdom. Ah. What? The meeting hall is being moved from our Sky Patrol City. Fong Langbai and Jin Kang were shocked. This was something they had never thought of. It seemed that the meeting hall had been set up in the Sky Patrol City since the beginning of the Taoist Sword War. Although the meeting hall was the core of the sect's war command, the Sky Patrol City had already treated the meeting hall as part of its territory. They had never heard of the meeting hall being moved from the Sky Patrol City. This. How can this be? Jin Kang was at a loss for words. How can the meeting hall be removed from my Sky Patrol City? When the birds are gone, the bow is put away. When the cunning rabbit is dead, the hound is cooked. Fong Langbai sneered. Although the great battle has yet to end, the nascent soul cultivators of the various sects have all gathered. Even if Huashan Sword has the power to reach the heavens, I'm afraid that he will not be able to reverse the outcome of the great battle of Dao and Sword. In any case, they had collected enough energy stones and trained their own disciples. With 1 million energy stones, these iron-blooded disciples would be able to fight against soul cultivators in Meng Mountains. The wishes of those who transformed into swords had been fulfilled. What else was there to say? As long as the confrontation lasted for a year and a half, Hua Jian would gain face and everything would be over. The sword cultivators would then return to Han country. These nascent soul cultivators had also contributed greatly. But, what about the contributions of my Sky Patrol City? I'm afraid that with the departure of the meeting hall, the lives of the 180,000 disciples of Sky Patrol City will be lost. Damn it! Despicable! How hateful! Jin King came to his senses and said hatefully, the various sects of the 3 kingdoms of cultivation. What do they take my Sky Patrol City for? What? Nothing at all. Fong Langbai sneered, what 9 great cities? What 10 great cities? They're just pawns in their eyes. They're just a bunch of wild foxes. Speaking of this, Fong Langbai's face showed a hint of interest. He clapped his hand and took out a jade slip. He handed it to Immortal Shuiyu respectfully and said, Didn't the city lord ask me to pay attention to the news of the Heavenly Demon sect? It turns out that the Heavenly Demon sect is so mysterious that it's really difficult for me to find their whereabouts. Now, the Heavenly Demon sect has established a sect in Shi country, Meng country, and Lian country at the same time. This is really a slap in the face for those self-proclaimed orthodox cultivators. Oh. Is that so? When did this happen? Immortal Shuiyu was also stunned. He waved his hand and the jade slip flew into his hand. He then checked it with his divine sense. I just received the news. Fong Langbai said in a low voice, according to the disciple who sent the message, it happened in the past 10 days or so. My Sky Patrol city is still not as good as those cultivators. A strange look flashed across Immortal Shuayu's eyes. Sun Yunzi and the others are probably worried that the Heavenly Demon sect will cause trouble behind their backs. That's why they moved the command center to Lian country. That must be it. They probably just received the news and changed their plans. They haven't even decided where to put the meeting hall. Qing Fengmin. Is that the sect leader of the Heavenly Demon sect? How come I've never heard of him? Immortal Shuayu said with a smile, if I knew what kind of immortal this Qing Fengmin is, I would really want to befriend him and drink with him. This kind of real demon is much more adorable than the sanctimonious cultivators of the Dao sect. Alright, I'll let the city lord know. Fong Langbai said with a smile, this Qing Fengmin was originally a rogue cultivator organization, one of the founders of the Heavenly Forsaken. This Heavenly Forsaken has a great reputation among the low-level cultivators of the 3 countries of cultivation. It's said that they can provide any cultivation technique below the 7th level of qi refining. Many rogue cultivators joined, and their numbers were quite large. However, it seems that several decades ago, this Heavenly Forsaken suddenly disappeared. This Qing Fengmin, and the founder named Luo Jiasin, were all killed. Furthermore, some sects even send out information that this Heavenly Forsaken was a tool used by Qing Fengmin and Luo Jiasin to suck the flesh and blood of cultivators. Who knew, this Qing Fengmin didn't die. He even established a sect and became the sect leader of the Heavenly Demon sect. It's really strange. Without waiting for Fong Langbai to finish, Immortal Shuayu sneered, what's so strange about it? The truth is definitely different from what the cultivators sect said. I'm almost certain that this Heavenly Forsaken must have touched the interests of some cultivator sections. That's why he was killed by those sections. It's fine if they killed him, but they even labeled him as a demon's flesh and blood food. But now, he had really cultivated the Devil Dao and established his own sect. Those cultivator sects that attacked him are probably sitting on pins and needles now. This Qing Fengmin is really amazing. Jean King said with admiration, he actually took advantage of the time when the nascent soul cultivators from various sects came to our Sky Patrol city and established a sect during the Sword Dao War, so that the other sects were too busy to deal with the Heavenly Demon sect. Not only that. Fong Langbai said again, this Heavenly Demon sect destroyed several aristocratic families in the state of Shi, the state of Lian, and the state of Meng, and even 2 cultivator sections. At the same time, they established sects in the 3 countries. Even the disciples of our Sky Patrol city couldn't find these 3 places. Which one is the real Heavenly Demon sect? A cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. Qing Fengmin is really smart. Jean King nodded. Immortal Shuayu sneered, you're all wrong. From what I see, these 3 places are the real Heavenly Demon sect. Or maybe these 3 places aren't the real Heavenly Demon sect. If these 3 places are fake, I can understand. But if these 3 places were all real, then, how powerful will this Heavenly Demon sect be? Jean Kang and Fong Langbai looked at each other in shock. Langbai, didn't you just say it? This Qing Fengmin is the founder of Heaven Forsaken, and Heaven Forsaken is mainly made up of rogue cultivators and low-level cultivators. How many low-level cultivators are there on the Dawn Rain continent? Think about it, this Heavenly Demon sect must be based on Heaven Forsaken, so how many disciples can it have? Immortal Shuayu explained, however, the longevity of a sect doesn't only depend on its disciples, cultivation techniques, spirit stones, and other factors. It also depends on its high-level disciples. If it weren't for me, how could this Sky Patrol City still be called a Sky Patrol City? Even if I'm here, aren't they still bullied by other cultivator sects? If this heavenly demon sect doesn't have a nascent soul cultivator, I'm afraid it won't last long. I'm afraid it's just a flash in the pan. I'm afraid it'll only become the laughingstock of the Dawn Rain Continent's cultivators. Immortal Shuayut said, "I'm afraid," 3 times in a row, which showed his anticipation for this heavenly demon sect. He was looking forward to this sect, which was mainly made up of devil cultivators, being able to stand firmly in the 3 countries of cultivation. City Lord, let's not talk about this heavenly demon sect, whose background we don't know, first. Fong Langbai sighed, now that our Sky Patrol City doesn't have the barrier of the Sword Tomb, we have to face the sword cultivators directly. The meeting hall is moving to the Lien country, so won't our Sky Patrol City be exposed to the sword cultivators' attacks? If the sword cultivator army besieges our Sky Patrol City, it'll be a troublesome matter. Ha, Langbai, you worry too much. Immortal Shuayu laughed. Our Sky Patrol City has been besieged by the sword cultivator army before, but every time, the sword cultivators returned in defeat. Every time, there were even swordsmen who died in our Sky Patrol City's formation. How would they dare to target our Sky Patrol City? Moreover, the Sky Patrol City is extremely cold, and it's not much different from the Heng country. Why would the sword cultivators want to target our Sky Patrol City? Why would they give up the Lien country's good territory and come looking for trouble with our Sky Patrol City? City Lord, you're right. However, we have to be on our guard. Jean King said respectfully, since our Sky Patrol City won't be participating in the upcoming sword battle, we can concentrate on management. At this point, Immortal Shuayu, who had calmed down, was suddenly startled. Then, he stood up from the futon in surprise and rushed out of the main hall without listening to Jean Kang's words. City Lord, this is... Jean King stopped and looked at Fong Langbai. I'm afraid something happened in the Sky Patrol City again. Fong Langbai said in a low voice. It can't be. Jean King shook his head. A group of nascent soul cultivators gathered in the Sky Patrol City. Which blind cultivator or swordsman would dare to cause trouble in the Sky Patrol City? Just as they were talking, they heard a hearty laugh outside the main hall. It was the depressed Immortal Shuayu. Brother Du He, I haven't seen you for many years. I didn't expect you to reach the peak of the middle stage nascent soul realm in just a few decades. Naturally, the teachers of my immortal music sect are no exception. I really have to congratulate Senior Chan. Perfected Shuayu raised his cup and said, as far as I know, this is the first senior who participated in the Battle of the Imperial Demon Valley, to have a breakthrough. In just a few decades, my Morning Rain Continent has another Void Refinement Realm cultivator. It hasn't reached that point yet. Brother, don't make wild guesses. And don't talk nonsense. Perfected Du Yi said with a smile. I know. Perfected Shuayut said hurriedly, I'm the City Lord of the Sky Patrol City. How can I not know such things? Besides, even if Senior Chan hasn't reached the Void Refinement Realm, since he has a breakthrough, he will have this step sooner or later. Senior Chan is definitely the only one in the Morning Rain Continent who can make such progress in just a few decades. Perfected Du Yi smiled and raised his cup to drink with Perfected Shuayu. At this time, Jean King also returned and took out a lot of rare spiritual fruits for Perfected Du Yi to taste. After eating for a while, Perfected Shuayut smiled and said, I wonder why fellow Daoist gave up your immortal-like life and came to my Sky Patrol City. If you need me, please tell me. I didn't know anything about it, so I didn't care about it. Later, I heard that Li Qingshu made a big fuss about it, which surprised me. The one who fought against him must be another golden core cultivator in the conference hall. This matter involved two sects, so I didn't investigate further. What about the place where Li Qingshu died? Where is it? Perfected Du Yi thought for a while and asked. Fong Langbi looked at Shui Yuzhenren and took out two jade slips. After writing something on one of them, he respectfully handed it to Perfected Du Yi and said, "This is fellow cultivator Li's record. Please forgive me for the rest." "No problem." Perfected Du Yi was overjoyed. He waved his hand and the jade slip fell into his hand. Naturally, he wouldn't interfere with the internal affairs of Shui Yuzhenren and look at the secrets of other sects. When Perfected Du Yi scanned it with his divine sense, the entire hall was silent. Perfected Shui Yuzhenren looked at Perfected Du Yi, who was getting more and more serious. He didn't know what was in his Shui Yuzhenren that was worthy of a late-stage spirit-severing cultivator's covetous eyes. After the spirit beast incident, did Xian Le sect send any foundation establishment cultivators out of the city? Or did Li Qingshu send any disciples out of the city? Perfected Du Yi asked. This. Fong Langbi was a little embarrassed. Our Shui Yuzhenren only records the names of cultivators who use the teleportation array. As for those who enter the city through the city gate, it only records the names of the disciples who enter the city, but not those who leave. Only disciples above the Golden Core realm have it. How many disciples from various sects entered the city through the city gate? Not many. Fong Langbi looked at Jean King, who hurriedly answered. See if there are any disciples from Xian Le sect. Perfected Du Yi was a little impatient. Yes, I'll check right away. Jean King hurriedly walked out of the hole. He has been staying in the station of Immortal Music sect in my Sky Patrol city. He is also a meritorious person in this war and is preparing to return to Immortal Music sect. This subordinate knows that he has some understanding of Li Qingshu's whereabouts, so I invited him to come over and meet Senior Du Yi. Immortal Du Yi nodded even more after hearing this. He looked at Jean King approvingly, then turned to Zhou Yongchang and said, "This old man knows that Li Qingshu fell for no reason. I feel that there is something strange about it, so I want to investigate the truth of his fall in private. You tell me all the people and things that he came into contact with in Sky Patrol City, no matter how big or small." "Yes, this junior understands." Zhou Yongchang answered very respectfully. Just as he was about to speak, Immortal Shuiyu hurriedly said, "Brother, please wait a moment. Let us leave first." Immortal Du Yi thought for a moment and nodded apologetically. "Thank you for your understanding, junior brother." Immortal Shuiyu smiled slightly and left with Jean Kang and Fong Lang. Immortal Du Yi looked around and found that there was no third person in the main hall. He released his divine thought and found no other Dharma power fluctuations. However, Immortal Du Yi still waved his hand and cast a mute spell before asking. He saw Zhou Yongchang standing there respectfully. He seemed to be talking non-stop. He talked for the time it took to finish a meal. However, Immortal Du Yi's face did not seem to be abnormal. He just listened quietly. When Zhou Yongchang finished, he raised his hand and removed the mute enchantment. He clapped his hand and took out a jade slip and handed it to Zhou Yongchang, saying, "Take this to Di Haiqing. He will naturally know what to do." "Yes, this junior thanks senior." When Zhou Yongchang heard that this thing was for his master, he immediately understood that it was an opportunity for him. He took the jade slip happily. However, he was after all a show-off and inevitably stood out. Even though he had hidden his figure behind the radiance of Li Zongbao and the others, he could still vaguely make out his back in those moments when he was not paying attention. Fortunately, perhaps because he was overwhelmed by the brilliance of Wu Ming from the Imperial Thunder sect, or because others felt that it was inappropriate for two meritorious disciples to appear in the Imperial Thunder sect at once, when Xiaohua flew to the left side of the Sky Patrol City, he was not recognized by the patrolling disciples of the various sections. Due to the suggestion of Sun Yunzi from the Xianghua sect, the meeting hall had to be removed from the Sky Patrol City. Although Immortal Shuiyu did not have any objections, the defense of the Sky Patrol City had already begun to shrink. The patrolling area of the disciples of the Sky Patrol City was limited to within 10 miles of the Sky Patrol City. The other areas, within 100 miles, were all patrolled by the disciples of the other sections. Therefore, although Xiaohua did not know that he had been discovered by Immortal Shuiyu and had even been listed as a must-kill target by Immortal Shuiyu, the patrolling disciples of the Sky Patrol City had also received the order to immediately report once they found traces of Xiaohua. However, when he flew within 100 miles of the Sky Patrol City, he did not encounter any disciples of the Sky Patrol City. Before Xiaohua sent out a message talisman to look for Fairy Hongxia, he naturally also looked for Han Zhu of the Kunlun sect. He did not dare to delay the matter of Jiang Luer. He would rather not go to the Million Mountains to wake Jiang Luer up first. However, Han Zhu's meeting with Xiaohua was both outside of Xiaohua's expectations and also within Xiaohua's expectations. Xiaohua couldn't help but smile wryly with a hint of worry on his face. On that day, when Xiaohua came to the left of the Sky Patrol City, he released his Buddhist sense to look at the patrolling disciples of the Xianghua sect in the distance. He frowned and thought, perhaps I should go into seclusion for a long time after the war. Yes, although Xiaohua had stepped into the Gold Core realm, his meridians were congenitally deficient in the Foundation Establishment realm. Now, he could barely make up for and balance the meridians of the Qi refining realm. However, according to the Great Tao Zhen Qing Jade Slip, his Gold Core realm had not been stable. During this period of time, although Xiaohua did not participate in the war again, he did not have the time to meditate. Forget it, let's wake Jiang Luer up first. Xiaohua landed on the ground and was about to use his concealment technique. However, when he saw the disciples of the Xianghua sect in the distance, he pondered for a moment before changing into a Taoist robe and changing his appearance. Soon after, Xiaohua flew up into the air and flew towards the patrolling disciples at a moderate speed. Where did this disciple come from? Xiaohua had just flown for a while when he was discovered by the patrolling disciples of the Xianghua sect. A few of them immediately flew over. I am Feng Yi, a disciple of the Huanhua sect. Xiaohua's face was as calm as water. He stood calmly in the air and quietly watched a disciple of the early-stage Foundation Establishment realm flying over with a few disciples of the Qi refining realm. Oh, so you are also a disciple of the country of Xi. The short and fat disciple of the early-stage Foundation Establishment realm heard Xiaohua's voice and replied with a smile on his face. Xiaohua was actually a little puzzled. The left side of the Sky Patrol City had always been patrolled by the disciples of the Sky Patrol City. When did it become a disciple of the Xianghua sect? How did the Sky Patrol City agree? However, he did not ask. Instead, he clapped his hands and took out a token. He smiled and said, I am here on the orders of my master to pass the message to the Sky Patrol City. Senior brother, please make an exception. Oh. The disciple of the Xianghua sect waved his hand and the token fell into his hand. He glanced at it and returned it to Xiaohua with a smile. Junior brother Feng, you came to the Sky Patrol City. Why didn't you use the teleportation formation? Now that the Great War of Dao and Sword is going on, there are many sword cultivators here. If you encounter one or two of them, I am afraid you will be in trouble. Xiaohua took the token and said with a smile, doesn't the teleportation formation of the Sky Patrol City cost spirit stones? I wanted to take these spirit stones to the Sky Patrol City's EG to see if there are any good flying swords. Moreover, now is the time for the two armies to rest. My Dao sect's cultivators are tired, but aren't those swordsmen tired? You may not encounter them. I didn't expect junior brother Feng to be a cultivator who knows how to live. It's really rare. The disciple smiled and cupped his hands. Junior brother Feng, please. Thank you, senior brother. Xiaohua did not mind that the disciple did not mention his name. He bowed and thanked him before flying away. Junior brother Feng. The disciple thought for a moment and said, although my Dao sect's nascent soul realm masters have arrived at the Sky Patrol City, the war has already begun. Junior brother, when you go back, don't be stingy. It's better to use the teleportation formation. Okay, I understand. Xiaohua replied with a smile. Of course, he asked casually, by the way, judging from senior brother's attire, you should be a disciple of Xianghua sect. Why? Are you patrolling outside the Sky Patrol City? Where are the Sky Patrol City's disciples? Previously, the Sky Patrol City's disciples were patrolling within 100 miles. The disciple explained with a smile, but 10 days ago, they suddenly reduced the scope of their patrol and only patrolled within 10 miles of the Sky Patrol City. The rest of the area was patrolled by the disciples of other sects in the Three Kingdoms. This humble Daoist was also assigned to this place today and coincidentally bumped into junior brother Feng. Oh, I see. Xiaohua suddenly understood. He rolled his eyes and asked in a low voice, is the Sky Patrol City doing this because they have lost too many disciples? Or are they compromising with the sects in the Three Kingdoms? Patrolling the Sky Patrol City is their own business. Ahem, the disciple coughed twice and said with a smile, it seems that junior brother Feng is not only a person who knows how to live, but also a cultivator with a strong curiosity. Unfortunately, I don't know the reason for this. If junior brother Feng is interested, why don't you go to the Huanhua sect's encampment and send me a message? Actually, I'm also very curious. Hee. Xiaohua's face showed traces of laughter. He cupped his hands and flew away without saying anything. The disciple of Xianghua sect naturally did not care about Xiaohua's question and continued to patrol other places. However, Xiaohua frowned. Strange, the Sky Patrol City actually reduced the scope of their patrol. There must be something strange about this. Forget it, what does this have to do with me? I will never enter the Sky Patrol City before I reach the advanced nascent soul stage. It had to be said that Xiaohua, who had undergone the baptism of battle, had the ability to find problems from the details. Xiaohua remembered what the disciple of Xianghua sect said. He flew for dozens of miles and stopped. He clapped his hands and took out the small golden Buddha that Han Zhu gave him. Although it was not suitable to take it out in front of Zhang Qingshao, Xiaohua had already checked it with his divine thought before he came. In addition to the divine thought imprisonment, there was a strange golden swan inscription. Chapter 2755. That's not necessarily true. The most dangerous place is also the safest place. Fairy Hongxia insisted. Xiaohua shrugged, knowing that he could not reason with the female cultivator, so he did not say anything more. Sigh, time is really a spiritual pill that makes people forget. After saying so much, Xiao Mao felt a little better. He took out a warm jade pendant from around his neck and rubbed it lovingly. I remember that this jade pendant was worn on my mother's neck. I liked to touch it when I was young. However, before I went to Jingbo City to train, I had never seen it. I thought that it had disappeared and I would never see it again. I did not expect to see it at Jingbo City's e.g. Hee, of course, if not for this jade pendant, I would not have known you. Xiao Mao looked at Xiao Hua. What kind of story is this? Fairy Hongxia raised her eyebrows and smiled. I have never asked, how did my dear Xiao get to know junior brother Xiao? It's actually very simple. However, it was all caused by a scam. Xiao Hua did not hide anything, and gave a brief account of what had happened in Jingbo City. Fairy Hongxia's eyes lit up as she listened, and she reached out to hold Xiao Hua's hand. Although she did not say anything, the feelings in her heart were unmistakable. Sigh, no wonder Zhua Xia likes you so much. Li Zongbao sighed. I was also with her in Jingbo City that day. If I had encountered such a thing, I'm afraid I would not have done anything. If it was senior brotherly, you would have already beaten that cultivator to a pulp. Xiao Mao laughed. Impossible. Li Zongbao said mercilessly. You are a disciple of Xuanyan school, and Zhuo Qinyuan was also beside you that day. If he did not care, I naturally would not care either. That's why I am Xiao Mao's big brother, you are not. Xiao Hua said proudly. What about that scoundrel cultivator? Li Zongbao ignored Xiao Hua and said indifferently, since he has your mother's jade pendant, he must know something. You have not gone to find that guy. I'm just a foundation establishment disciple, and I was only at Qi refinement before. How could I go to Jingbo City freely? Xiao Mao smiled bitterly. Furthermore, I've failed the trial in Jingbo City. The sect will not allow me to go there again. Forget it. The past is the past. What's important is the future. Fairy Hongxia comforted, if you were to live in the past, your mother and father would not be willing. Thank you, senior sister. Xiao Mao's mood had indeed improved as he bowed and said. You're welcome, you're welcome. We'll be a family in the future. Xiao Hua said with a smile. Tisk, Fairy Hongxia smiled faintly and spat lightly. Xiao Mao looked around and revealed a smile. He looked into the distance and said, Senior sister, we have already passed the battlefield of the Sword Mound. Is this the right direction? When Fairy Hongxia heard this, she stopped blushing. She clapped her hands and took out an ancient jade pendant. She looked at it with her divine thought for a moment and said hesitantly, what is recorded in this jade slip is the previous route of the Sword Tomb. Now that the Sword Tomb has disappeared, I can't make up my mind. Let's go. Anyway, there are no longer any magic arrays or sword arrays in the Sword Catacomb. There are only a few spatial cracks. We just need to be careful and we should be fine. Seeing Fairy Hongxia looking at him, Xiao Hua hurriedly shrunk his neck and suggested. Yes, junior brother Xiao is right. The Sword Tomb has disappeared, so the obstacle in the path of swordsmanship is also gone. The secret passage in the Sword Tomb is naturally useless. However, it is the Sword Tomb that has disappeared. The Heng country still exists. We just need to pass through the Sword Tomb and reach the Heng country first. Li Zongbao said calmly as he led the way. Although he said that, everyone felt that passing through the sword tomb was not a difficult task. However, after flying for another hour, Xiaohua's expression changed. He whispered, "Senior Brotherly, there are sword cultivator patrolling disciples ahead. Should we fight or hide?" "Hide, of course," Li Zongbao said without hesitation. "This is the sword cultivator's territory. Our goal is to pass through the Han country, not to fight to the death with them." "Yes, little brother understands. It's better for little brother to lead the way," Xiaohua said as his figure flew up and flew towards the sky. Fairy Hong Xia and the rest looked helpless. It seemed that the disappearance of the sword tomb was not a good thing. Instead, it made it difficult for them to pass through. If the sword tomb had been there before, with the jade slip passed down by Fairy Hongxia's ancestors and the secret passage, even if they met sword cultivators within a few miles, they would not be discovered. Now, with a sweep of the sword cultivator's spiritual force, Xiaohua and the rest not only had to avoid the spatial cracks, they also had to avoid the sword cultivator's spiritual force patrol. The most helpless thing was that because of the disappearance of the sword tomb, the sword cultivators, who had never set up defenses in the sword tomb, had now sent out many disciples to guard the passage to the sword tomb, preventing the Dao sect cultivators from killing their way into the Han country. After flying for half a day, their direction was messed up. Xiaohua was like a headless fly flying around. Fortunately, there was still Li Zongbao and the rest. Although they had been taking a roundabout route, they were still advancing towards the Han country. "Sai, you. Didn't the Kai family move from the Million Meng Mountains to the Shi country long ago? This sword tomb might not have existed at that time. Your Kai family's ancestral jade slip should have the route from a long time ago." Although the three divine intents locked onto the four of them, when the 5 rays of light flew over their heads, one of the swordsmen landed beside Xiaohua and the rest. When the ray of light retracted, they saw a well-built sword-transformed elder within the ray of light. "Who are you? Why did you barge into my sword domain?" The sword-transformed elder berated, "Don't you know that we swordsmen can also attack now? If I wanted to take your lives, it would be as easy as flipping my hand." Senior is right. We Foundation establishment disciples are far from being a match for a sword-transformed cultivator like you. Li Zongbao said indifferently, but the battle between the Dao and the Sword Dao is currently resting and has not officially begun. Moreover, we have already escaped from the great battle of Dao and Sword. We are just traveling around. Could it be that you, sword-transformed elder, want to take the lives of the Dao sect cultivators, regardless of whether they are Qi refinement or golden core cultivators? Hee, what a sharp-tongued child. The sword-transformed elder's face turned green, as if a faint green color was seeping out from under his skin. His eyes revealed a kind of astonishment. However, the sword-transformed elder's sword intents revolved around his body and even seemed to flow like a substance, enveloping Li Zongbao and the rest. In the end, he did not take any further action. With a wave of his hand, a complete sword chi mixed with sword hair rushed towards Xiaohua and the others. The 4 of them were shocked and hurriedly tried to dodge. However, in front of the sword chi, a feeling of a complete golden needle pouncing on their faces immediately restrained the 4 of them. The sword chi then stabbed in front of them. Li Zongbao and the others were shocked and naturally tried their best to break free. However, the invisible sword chi had already imprisoned their true essence and they were unable to use even a trace of their magic power. They simply wanted to, but they were powerless. However, Xiaohua was different. At this time, there was no true essence in his meridians. Although his meridians were imprisoned, he could still use the dragon transformation art. Even the golden core in his dantian could also use true essence. However, facing the sword transformation swordsman who had been wasting time with him for a long time, Xiaohua was confident that he would not really make a move. Therefore, on the surface, he struggled like Li Zongbao and the others, but in reality, he did not use even a trace of true essence. Of course, as Xiaohua's hand was already slightly clenched. As long as his guess was slightly wrong, he would immediately use the soul-slaying Yuan light. At the same time, the spiritual fire was also urged into his mouth. Seeing the thousands of sword hair rushing in front of the four of them, those sword hair once again emitted a dazzling brilliance. These brilliances intertwined with each other and unexpectedly formed a sword net, instantly trapping the four of them. This sword net did not stop. Instead, it brought along the imprisoned figures of the four people and rushed towards the ground at an extremely fast speed. Huff, 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 huff. Four muffled sounds rang out and the four people fell on the foot of the mountain, their bodies in a sorry state. Humph! The sword transformation swordsman coldly snorted again. He did not even look at the four people. We don't have any relationship with those Dao sect kids. Cheng Minghua was the sect master of the Clear Sword sect, so he naturally wouldn't back down. He sneered and said, "This old man only wants to tell you that among those four Dao sect kids, 3 of them are the Foundation Establishment disciples who killed your Void Heaven Sword School's Qin Jian." Ah. It's actually them. This old man was looking for that terrifying phoenix, but he actually threw himself into my hands. The sword transformation elder with the surname Chong was the sect master of the Void Heaven Sword School. His name was Chong Taishu, and he had long hated Xiaohua for killing Qin Jian. When he heard that Xiaohua had come, he actually stopped. Sword transformation elder is mighty," Cheng Minghua said with a smile. "Looking at your posture, you're going to kill Xiaohua." "What? I can't. This is a war. What's there to be afraid of if I kill 1 or 2 Foundation Establishment disciples? I'm not afraid of losing face," Chong Taishu coldly said. "You're not afraid of losing face, but this old man is," Cheng Minghua said with disdain. This old man has never heard of a sword transformation swordsman attacking a Foundation Establishment cultivator. Even during a war. He has a grudge with this old man, so this old man can naturally attack him. Chong Taishu was somewhat unwilling. A sword transformation swordsman of my sword domain shouldn't attack a Foundation Establishment disciple. Another sword transformation swordsman persuaded, "Your Void Heaven Sword School does have a grudge with Xiaohua, but that's between a sword transformation swordsman and a Foundation Establishment cultivator. Even if Xiaohua was a golden core cultivator, you still wouldn't have the right to attack him. If you attack him, my sword domain transformation swordsman will lose all face." This sword transformation swordsman was an old woman with white hair. Although her voice was sharp, her tone was firm, which made Chong Taishu hesitate. "Beautiful butterfly, no one from your Black Phoenix Sword School has died in his hands, so naturally, you can speak without feeling any pain." Of course, since it was related to the secret of heaven, it must have had little to do with Nameless from the thunder-controlling sect. "What is this object? Can we learn something from it?" Blue Butterfly still asked in a low voice, as if she did not believe that by saying the object's name, she would reveal the secret of heaven. Alas, this will make things difficult for Fairy. The Daoist master sighed. "Let's ask Fairy. If she doesn't want to, then don't say it." Chong Taishu was also curious. Sure enough, after a while, the Taoist master whispered, "Fairy has already told me. This object is really amazing." "What is it?" Chong Taishu, Blue Butterfly, and Qing Minghua asked in unison. "Actually, even if I tell you, you may not know it." The Taoist master seemed to be keeping them in suspense. "That's why we want to learn something." Chong Taishu blurted out, "Please enlighten us." "Alas, this object is the 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper." The Taoist master finally said the name of the object. 10. Extinguishing. Heaven. Dipper. Chong Taishu and the other two were stunned. They had never heard of this object before. "This is the name of an ancient spiritual artifact." The Taoist master said lightly, "Of course, Fairy only has a feeling and is not completely sure. That's why she is afraid of revealing the secret of heaven. As for what this object is and how powerful it is, I'm afraid that the current Taoist sect cultivators do not know. Don't ask too much." "Okay, we understand. Thank you, Fairy and Taoist master." When Blue Butterfly heard that they could not be sure that it was the 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper and that even the Taoist sect cultivators did not know about it, her heart calmed down. She bowed and said, "Let us send Fairy and Taoist master to Lian country to see the results of our sword domain's battle." "Very good." The Taoist master was hidden behind the golden light, so they could not see whether he nodded or not. "Please." Qing Minghua and the rest said as they escorted the Taoist master and Fairy into the air. Their direction was different from Xiaohua and the rest. However, just as they were flying, Chong Taishu said coldly, "Since the sword tomb is fine, we can be at ease. However, how can these Taoist sect cultivators travel freely in our sword domain? If our sword domain did not respond, it would seem that our swordsmen are too lazy." With that, Chong Taishu flicked his hand and a flying sword message rushed into the air, heading straight for Huan country. Swordsman Chong is a little bored. Seeing this, Blue Butterfly and Qing Minghua smiled at each other and said softly. Obviously, they knew the reason for the disappearance of the sword tomb. Although they were not completely sure, they were relieved. Although Li Zongbao and the rest did not know that the flying sword message was as they guessed, it was in order to prevent them from entering Huan country, they had already made preparations in advance. However, the deeper they flew into the sword tomb, the closer they got to Huan country, the more sword cultivators on patrol there. It was almost impossible for Li Zongbao and the rest to hide their tracks and pass through the gaps between the sword cultivators. Many times, Xiaohua and the rest had to face the patrolling swordsmen and the swordsmen from various sword sects. Fortunately, most of the patrolling swordsmen in the sword tomb were at the sword conception realm. A small number of them were at the sword conception realm and below, and only a few were at the sword conception realm or below. As for the swordsmen at the illusory sword realm, they were basically patrolling swordsmen who sent out flying sword messages. The nearby illusory swordsmen would be attracted by the flying sword messages. Of course, these swordsmen weren't a match for Li Zongbao and the others by themselves, let alone Xiaohua. Chapter 2758. If you dare to do anything else, I will not let my magical treasure go to waste. The one following behind Xiaohua must be Fairy Hongxia. As she spoke, she released a strand of Xiantian primordial water from her body. Although the Xiantian primordial water was very thin, it was formed into a thin layer by Fairy Hongxia. It blocked the spiritual wills of the swordsmen, causing them to be shocked. Li Zongbao and Xiao Mao followed behind Fairy Hongxia calmly. They did not take out any magical treasures. This kind of leisurely flight was even more unfathomable to the swordsmen. They were even more fearful than Xiao Hua and Fairy Hong Xia. After all, Li Zongbao's cultivation seemed to be at the late stage of foundation establishment, while the ferocious Xiao Hua was only at the middle stage of foundation establishment. For a moment, all the swordsmen hesitated. Damn it! Whoever wants to die, come and find me. Xiao Hua pointed at the seal of the overturning sea. The entire seal of the overturning sea hummed. The coiling dragon roared and circled around the seal. In an instant, all the swordsmen retreated dozens of feet in fear. Ha ha ha. I will be leaving. Don't send me off. Xiao Hua laughed loudly and arrogantly swaggered off. The ocean overturning seal slowly followed behind him with a long tail of light behind it. The group of drawing swords and nurturing swordsmen looked at each other and did not dare to chase after them. Big brother, you are really amazing. This magical treasure is really amazing. After flying for an incense's time, Xiao Mao could not help but look at the seal of the overturning sea in mid-air and say with envy. Indeed, just a moment ago, when Xiao Hua was besieged by a group of swordsmen, he activated the cloud-suppressing seal. First, he knocked down a dozen swordsmen from the air, and then he knocked down another dozen swordsmen. Among them, there were even several flying swords of inferior quality that were smashed to pieces, and the owners of those flying swords also suffered serious internal injuries. This was only the beginning. Following which, Xiao Hua's seal of the sea was like a huge dragon emerging from the sea. The immense sealing power of the seal and the boundless might of the coiling dragon disintegrated the formation of over 100 swordsmen. As for Xiao Mao and Li Zongbao, they did not even need to use their magic treasures. Under the threat of Fairy Hong Xia, everyone rushed out unscathed. Ha, this is nothing. Xiao Hua laughed loudly. He turned to look at the sword cultivator who was eager to give it a try and shouted, "You haven't seen Big Brother's awe-inspiring time yet. If anyone dares to step forward, I'll kill them for you to see." As soon as he said that, many swordsmen who were eager to give it a try immediately shrunk their heads, not daring to make any more moves. Thus, Xiao Hua and the other three boldly flew towards the Huan country. After flying for a full 2 hours, the spatial cracks that appeared from time to time within the sword catacomb had completely disappeared. The patrolling sword cultivator disciples also did not appear. Xiao Hua knew that the sword catacomb had most likely passed. He snorted coldly and said, "That sword transformation old ghost was also bluffing. Just based on these sword cultivators and sword nurturing disciples, you think you can stop this young master?" Fairy Hong Xia pursed her lips and laughed. She whispered, "That sword transformation old ghost naturally thought that you were that terrifying phoenix. But who would have thought that? You are not only a phoenix, but a nameless one. In fact, a bald phoenix like you is even more powerful than the real terrifying phoenix." Seeing Xiao Hua and Fairy Hong Xia whispering here, Li Zongbao had already moved to the side. Xiao Mao also said a few words and flew to Li Zongbao's side, accompanying him to look at the nearby scenery. It was abnormally cold. Usually, there were no spiritual herbs or spiritual trees commonly seen in Shi country. Even green wood and red flower were luxurious here. Xiao Hua and the rest flew for several days. Other than snow and ice, there were only cliffs and perilous peaks. But the cliffs and perilous peaks reflected the pale light. Whether it was rock or soil, there was a layer of ice. It was as if the entire Huan country was a world of ice and snow. Of course, in this world of ice and snow, other than pure white, there were still other colors. But in the sky above their heads, a kind of azure color pounced on their heads. It was abnormally pure, as if the entire sky was a piece of transparent blue jade. Moreover, the sky seemed to be extremely high and extremely far. When one looked at it, an extremely mysterious feeling involuntarily arose in one's heart. There was even a kind of feeling, a kind of impulse, that made one want to fly up high and plunge into this boundless blue sky. Moreover, some clouds occasionally floated across the sky. They were extremely ethereal. Not only did they not block the blue sky, but they also showed a kind of vitality, making the clouds appear pure white. And this pure white contrasted with the blue and white where the sky and earth intersected, as if the white of the earth was projected in the sky. The unfamiliar scenery of Huan country brought Xiaohua and the rest far more than that. As the four of them went deeper into Huan country, dozens of days later, the original alternating sun and moon also changed. The day became longer, and the sun on the horizon did not set for several days. Xiaohua and the rest were all foundation establishment and golden core cultivators. Originally, they did not care much about the day and night, but after a long time, they also felt the strangeness of the sky. After Xiaohua and the rest were amazed by this, when the night really came, an even more pleasant surprise was brought to them. In the dark night, the night stars were so bright, so clear, and so bright. The night sky was not completely dark, but there was a hint of blue in the darkness. Moreover, the night was also extremely long, far longer than the day. After the four of them flew for a few more days at night, a strand of lemon green appeared in the distant night sky. It was unknown when this green appeared, but when Xiaohua raised his eyes to look, it had already appeared in the dark blue part of the night sky. This green brilliance seemed to mix into a river and quickly spread towards the sky. As this lemon green became denser, it was as if a spiritual tree was born in the distance, rapidly growing towards the entire night sky. In fact, the lemon green swayed and twisted in the night sky, like the swaying of the wind, or the overflowing of the water. Just as Xiaohua held Fairy Hongxia's hand and called Li Zongbao and Xiao Mao to look, the source of the lemon green suddenly flickered, and an almost azure luster quickly overflowed, directly chasing after the lemon green that had already spread across the distant horizon like ribbons. It's really beautiful. When had Fairy Hongxia seen such a magnificent scene? She had long been intoxicated. However, before she could finish her sentence, another dazzling blue quietly surged out after the deep green. It was like a surging river, surging past the green and green as it rapidly rushed into the horizon. It's here again. Fairy Hongxia clapped her hands happily, like a little girl who had seen a beautiful scene, happily shouting. Sure enough, after the blue, red, orange, yellow, purple and other colors surged out, and in between these colors, there were even other colors that were not. The brightness of these colors were different, and the range of their flickering was also different.